There you go.
Late night last night, if you wanted to stay up and watch everything. 10:45 start time of the College World Series. Virginia eliminated by Texas. The Clippers get back in the Western Conference Finals in the NBA, even though Chris Paul returned for the Suns. And we'll start on the ice, since that's where your interest has been built lately. The Montreal Canadiens beating the Vegas Golden Knights in a big upset and going to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, Patrick, I don't know what you think about this. I was openly rooting for Las Vegas last night, even though I don't know any of their players. I think the goalie's supposed to be really, really good because I feel like they are the team that would give, if Tampa wins tonight, Game 7 tonight will be a lot of fun, by the way. I'm very, very fired up for Lightning Islanders in Tampa tonight, Game 7. And so I wanted to see another Game 7 Saturday night between Vegas and Montreal. That was reason number one, I was pulling for Vegas. Reason two, I was pulling for Vegas is because I feel like Las Vegas was the only team out of these two that could give, if Tampa wins, Tampa a run for their money. Vegas is supposed to be pretty good in 3, and this is maybe selfishly, but I don't know if you guys agree. The fact that Las Vegas can have fans and their fan base is one of the more rowdy fan bases in the NHL, I think it would have created a really fun environment, a really exciting environment there for the NHL Finals. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
I hear what you're saying, but this story is something. Montreal, and I love the upset story typically. I'm not sure how much fun this one's going to be moving forward, but I don't know, the whole pageantry of that. The NHL in Vegas, and now that Vegas is a big league pro sports town, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that. I think maybe because of the COVID issues and the Raiders moving there, doing it without fans at first has kept me from really wrapping my brain around that. What about you, Bill? Do you, in your mind, is Vegas still a pro sport? Is it a pro sports town yet?
I don't know what to make of Vegas. Is it a pro sports town? I mean, I don't know. I haven't been back to Vegas in years, and so I'm not sure that I would label it as a pro sports town yet. I guess because I haven't gone out there and watched an NFL game or NHL game, and not real sure kind of what exactly I would label Las Vegas at just yet.
Well, it's always been different, that's for sure. I guess you got to build kind of an identity when you first become a pro sports town, and Vegas getting to the finals of the Stanley Cup just immediately helped that a lot. Whatever happens with the Raiders now with Derek Carr and John Gruden and the whole thing will certainly help develop that pro sports mentality. What do you make of on the basketball court with Chris Paul coming back, the Phoenix Suns leader coming back, and then he and Devin Booker, I think, combined to go 0 for 9 in the first quarter last night, and the Suns just didn't have it. It was kind of a do or die game for the Clippers, but Kawhi Leonard's still not playing. And can anybody explain to me why he's watching from a suite instead of sitting on a bench?
Yeah, it's probably far more comfortable, and he gets to actually maybe enjoy himself up there.
Because that's what you should be doing in Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals. You should be worried about Kawhi Leonard enjoying himself and not being a part of the team or trying to help his teammates in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, get on up there and enjoy the perks of being an athlete and all the things that come with sitting in a suite. I totally understand that.
I don't think I would like it if it was my team, but I mean, I guess I get it. Kawhi's not going to be that guy that's reaching his head into the little whiteboard meetings in between timeouts and talking to guys. Like, that's just not who he is at all. But I think that's a sign that no matter what he's done, I think they're only not announcing that he's out for the year for the sake of keeping Phoenix guessing. Like, it was supposed to be maybe a couple of days where we heard that he might be out for the rest of the previous series, and there's been no sign that he's practiced. He's not warmed up or anything like that. Like, I think this just is a sign that there's no shot Kawhi's coming back no matter what.
Oh, wait a second, Patrick. I get it that your powers of sports observation are pretty good, but don't you think there's somebody in the Clippers organization that might think, hey, that's tipping it off a little bit. Let's not send him straight up to the suite, because then Phoenix will probably know what we know and stuff.
Well, he wasn't even at the other games.
Well, I get
This
not
when he was
traveling.
Yeah.
I get not traveling if you're rehabbing, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to physically do everything possible to get back on the basketball court, but if you're in the building, you can't sit on the bench with your teammates. Is that such an old school notion these days? Maybe it is. Maybe
I
not.
don't. I mean, I don't know that I've taken. Maybe I just haven't taken note of it, but I don't know that I've seen that before. A guy just sitting in the suite instead of on the bench.
So it's weird. This just struck me as very weird. That's all.
I mean, at least guys that are part of the team. I guess I remember Alex Smith when his gruesome injury happened was sitting in the suites for Washington games, but I guess that's a different situation because he almost died, and there was obviously no shot he was coming back that season.
And when I say weird, we all understand Kawhi Leonard, beat him his own drummer kind of guy. So maybe I should have just expected this in the NBA from last night. But one of the things that struck me from the NBA standpoint for sure, College World Series, I think it's a bit of a bummer that Virginia is done, especially having seen them come through Columbia. I get it if you're a Gamecock fan and you wanted the team that helped eliminate Carolina and was the last team to beat them out. But they had a bit of a Cinderella run, and it's done now 6-2, that final score. Again, that one didn't start until late last night and was never really in doubt. Virginia just coming up short, so they finished pretty much fifth at the College World Series. You got 4 teams left now, and it will be difficult for Vandy certainly to go through NC State twice, but I think much easier for them to do it than Stanford would have had the chance to do after throwing their ace the other night. So Vandy and Vandy and NC State on that side of the bracket, and Texas will have to knock off Mississippi State twice to avoid the Bulldogs playing for the national championship on the other side of the bracket from the College World Series standpoint. Bill, you made the trip up to Greenwood yesterday and hit the golf ball around a little bit. Went well?
Played the Patriot at Grand Harbor. Had a blast. Would like to say I shot just a little bit better, but we're a little inconsistent right now. We continue to work on the game, but beautiful course, man. A lot of fun to go up there and play, and had a really good time. And they are getting geared up for their member this weekend. So the course is actually in excellent shape, and took some buddies up from high school, and we did our usual trash talking / playing for a nickel game, and it was a little intense earlier because we haven't played together. So within 6 holes, it had gotten pretty intense. But I'll take it. I'll take a little bit of improvement there yesterday as I continue to work my way back into golfing shape.
Patrick, you see what he did there immediately off the jump? He went talking about his golf game. Typically, right. It's more the third person instead of, I don't even know what that is. Is it the first person plural?
It's like coach speak. Coaches only talk in we's.
It's a team effort out there.
Actually, like PGA Tour golfers do that, I hear, but they have their caddy involved. I think that's why they do that. They actually you didn't have a caddy working for you yesterday.
Depends on how you wanted to frame my Benjamin Ryan was on my team and read several of my putts. So it depends. I mean, he didn't carry my bag. He did drive the cart. He used the laser pointer to give me some distances. Could have been a wee effort. You were just relating it to yesterday.
Fair enough. College football news I'm seeing from yesterday. Tennessee is officially done with a freshman quarterback, Caden Salter. Bill, you mentioned, I don't think he was the only Tennessee kid to get in trouble here recently, but did get arrested last week, this particular quarterback. And now Josh Heupel and company moving on from them in a statement yesterday, doing the usual, wishing him the best in all of his future endeavors. But some Tennessee, just the latest bit of flux, I guess, with the roster and the Josh Heupel hire and the whole thing. With Caden Salter, actually originally from Texas, a 4-star prospect at quarterback, no longer part of the program.
Yeah, it was actually a guy that South Carolina or that Will Muschamp had. I think it was. I'm trying to remember which quarterbacks coach tried to recruit him. I think it might have been McClendon. Well, I guess it wasn't quarterbacks coach, but offensive coordinator. I think it was Brian McClendon who tried to recruit him as well and bring him in. I think he did take an unofficial to South Carolina. I could be wrong on that, but I remember his name from recruiting, and obviously he ends up at Tennessee. But Tennessee will be fine or relatively fine. I don't think he would have beaten out Joe Milton or Hendon Hooker, two transfers there. Milton coming in from Michigan, Hooker from Virginia Tech, and we'll see kind of how those guys develop there, or Josh Heupel as he tries to get that program turned around and back up and running. Certainly Salter would have at least provided a little bit of competition to them and maybe pushed them. But I think those two guys likely would have been the guys that we'd be talking about as the starter when South Carolina goes to Knoxville there in October. So I don't
just because of experience. I mean, I think that both those guys kind of stink, to be honest.
I'm not sure that Salter was going to be any better than.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because he's never played. But I mean, I was never impressed. I watched a couple Michigan games last year, and they were horrible. And Joe Milton was not impressive. He's got a big arm, and then Hendon Hooker. I mean, Virginia Tech's terrible. So yeah, he was not impressive either.
Yeah, so I personally think that it still would have been one of those two, even with Salter in the mix. Now you just remove him, and it likely will be one of those two. I don't think they have a third guy that could sneak out of nowhere and beat those guys out.
Sullivan McDermott.
Sure.
What's the deal with McDermott there?
That's my best friend's little brother, who's preferred walk-on quarterback there.
Okay, there we go.
I thought it might be something like that. So is this going to be another year in the SEC of kind of resetting quarterbacks? I'm trying to think of guys coming back. At the top of the list, you got JT Daniels at Georgia, the first one to pop in my mind, and then Matt Corral at Ole Miss. Anybody else popping you guys' head there? I guess you got to go Bo Nix at Auburn.
Just in the SEC?
Yeah, just in the SEC. I'm thinking about it.
I think we've talked about it. It's a weak class returning.
Well, I feel like this happens every few years, right? We get to SEC media days, and some years, I think last year might have been a year, like, hey, man, we know all these quarterbacks might have been the year before. This is a bunch of guys coming back, and everybody's pretty much got their guy, and we get to hear from them all this week, and that's great. This year is not going to be that year.
I mean, Miles Brennan put up some huge numbers before he got hurt and then had to sit out. But if he wins that job, I think it might be a legitimate battle with Max Johnson there. But they have high hopes for him.
Yeah, you got is it Basilik at Missouri? Yeah, Connor Basilik. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that he was great last year. 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions for him. He's a young kid. You're right about Miles Brennan. I think Miles Brennan would be up there if he'd have played more games. Because you said, Patrick, he put up some big numbers. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's the reason that TJ Finley has elected to transfer out and go to Auburn. But other than that, I mean, I think there's guys that it'll be interesting to see what in year 2 of the Mike Leach experiment in Starkville, what he does with the quarterback situation. Obviously, in a weird year last year, he somehow had 2 quarterbacks throw over 200 passes.
Well, they were losing a lot. That's one way to get up.
And they don't run the football, so when you throw it 50 times a game, it's pretty easy to.
2 quarterbacks threw for 200, threw at least 200 passes. Will Rogers threw 346 passes. KJ Costello threw 209, and their leading rusher had just 70 attempts.
Well, how many? Costello threw like 70 in the first game, didn't he? He threw about a third of those in the first game against LSU.
Probably about right, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, those are shocking numbers, and that might be the most telling stat of all. I wonder what would be a good stat. So that was, how many did you say? 370 something? Did you say? Do you still have it in front of you there? Those numbers, 209. I remember Costello. What was the other one? For Will Rogers, how many?
346.
Okay, so let's call it 550.
557. 557 is the total.
All right. Do you want to know how much the 2 South Carolina quarterbacks had in total last year?
I do, but I want to guess. Let's play a little game. Let's have some fun. It's a Friday. 550 pass attempts from Mississippi.
What was the most? Who threw the most? And what was their number?
Will Rogers threw 4. He was 239 of 346. 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Okay. So did both of South Carolina's quarterbacks combined throw more than he did.
I'm guessing no.
No.
Now
I
that
think-
would be
I
more
think-
fun to pick a number.
I
Come on.
think. All right, now we're here. Do this
Wanna
too.
do some
because
math?
I think the number. I think the number on Ryan Helinski is 6, if I'm correct. And so even if you want to throw him in there and add 6 extra, and I believe
6 passes. Is that what you're saying? That's what you
think.
remember distinctly. That's
I
interesting.
was reading the Northwestern quarterback situation the other day, and I'm
Gotcha.
pretty sure it mentioned 6. So it's not. So I think Helinski threw 6. I'm kind of guessing here. I think Luke Doty threw 103. It's either 103 or 109. So I'll ballpark that at 110, and I would say Colin Hill through 7.5 games was averaging. On the high end, it would have been 30 passes, so 210. So I'll say he's right at 210. So 210 plus another 110. So I'll say the 3 quarterbacks for South Carolina combined for 320 passes last year.
That's pretty good math. I think it was still high for.
I would take the under on that, but I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
No,
I'm gonna
that's
go
true.
300.
If we're playing price of right game, I'm gonna go under. I'll say 301, Judge. 301.
There's a judge and the price is right.
Well, we're not.
I'll go $1 here. What's the answer there, Patrick?
292.
292.
I don't know where the
almost
100
half
number. Luke Doty threw 71 passes,
Oh, 71.
was a little
and
high.
then Colin Hill threw 215. And
Yeah,
I
so
didn't
you
look
had
up
that
Helinski. I
estimate
didn't
right
confirm
now.
that, but I will take your word on the 6. Sounds
Like,
about
I'll have
right.
it.
So half. Wow. So what do we think would be a good number? So again, this is in 10 games last year. I guess Mississippi State, they ended up with 11th. They didn't, right? They were terrible. So they only had 10 games as well, and they averaged 50 passes per game. Unbelievable. What would be a good number this year? Do you want Gamecock quarterbacks throwing more or less, Bill, than what they threw for last
Oh,
year?
I don't think there's any question. You want them less. I mean, you want less. Helinski threw 6 last year. I was correct on that. 2, and then Shai Smith threw 2 passes. Kate Kroger threw 1 pass. So the total passes attempted by South Carolina was 295. Yeah. So, but with all that being said, you want. Wait, Tim, was your question less than 295 or just
Right.
less in general?
Over under that number, what the Gamecocks threw for last year. And I guess we have to let's make it very even, right? We'll call 295 300 and say 30 passes per game. Since we're now going to back to the 12 game schedule, it makes more sense to do the average as opposed to the total number. 30 pass attempts per game. You want to see more or less next year?
You want to see less. That's 360.
How many?
If,
How many more or less?
Not
many, right?
I'll go right to a number here. Yes, I want to see 60 less passes. 300, I think, is the number. That's 25 a game. That's 25 a game.
You're going to see 5 per game less, 25 a game, 27 somewhere in that range, a little bit more, because you got to keep the defense honest. And we also know there's going to be a lot of passes to the tight end or the running backs. A lot of times passes to the running backs are just extension of the run game, right? Or just screens out there to wide receivers, whatever. I don't think we're going to see a ton of that because you don't have proven playmakers. You got to keep a defense honest as well. And you got to sustain some drives. To sustain drives, you got to have plays. Because I think if you go too low there, Bill, that's a bad sign for the offense that you're not running many plays.
Well, for pass attempts, though, sometimes unless you're like an air raid type of team, it could be good because that means you're not trying to throw yourself back into games.
Right.
So if you're playing with a deficit or against a deficit and you have to throw the ball on every snap in the fourth quarter just to try and claw your way back, that's generally a bad sign. But I don't know, 30 is that's not a high number anymore.
Exactly. It's not even close to a high number. I would say 40 is kind of the threshold now, right? I think it used to be 30.
Yeah.
And now it's 40, and Mississippi State has blown that out of the water, averaging more than 50 passes.
Well,
but they're going 90.
be.
They're like a 90-10 run
Right.
pass run ratio. So it's
But that's the thing. We don't know what Marcus Satterfield and Shane Beamer are going to be. And from what we hear, they don't come in necessarily with a formula, right? And we clearly know the experience and production is from the running in the running game and not in the passing game. So I get what you're saying, Bill, about focusing on not too many pass attempts for sure. That certainly doesn't seem to be where it would go great. But I mean, we've seen some strange things, I feel like, recently from that stat when we saw Ryan Helinski throw he set the school record or tied the school record against Alabama back in the day. His first SEC start. I mean, just
trailing the entire game, basically.
Yeah, I get it. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, for South Carolina to have a chance to win 6 or 7 games, your running game has to lead the way. There's got to be some sign of a passing game to keep teams honest and from putting 8 or 9 guys in the box. So there is going to have to be some element of a passing game. But I just think between the 2 running backs in particular, Harris and Lloyd, throw in Zaquandre White as a third guy, and then the ability of Luke Doty to run. That's the bread and butter of this offense. Also, I can't base it on what I know going into the year with new offensive line coach Greg Atkins, but I can base it on what I saw last year, which is a team that could run block. They could run block, but they also struggled in pass block, which is kind of scary. So I think you've got to be able to line up, even though teams know that you're going to come out and run the football. You've got to be able to come out and do that effectively. I don't know if it's going to be a hurry-up tempo offense. Marcus Satterfield's already talked about huddling. And so I also don't think that this is a team that's going to be pushing 75, 80 plays a game. I think they'll be closer to 70, which, 25 is the average, that's probably pretty good. That's a 50 runs per game, which I think people would want to see. Maybe 20 runs from whichever running back seems to be lighting it up the most that day, 15 from the second guy, maybe 5 or 10 from 5-10 from Luke Doty, 5-10. Again, those numbers I know don't completely equal 50, but you're talking about who's kind of got the hot hand. 5-10 maybe from the third running back, and 5-10 from the from Doty.
Yeah, I can see that being a formula that might work for South Carolina for sure. I think it'll be interesting for me to see, and we talked about it before, how the Steve Spurrier philosophy was, we're going to do what we're going to do, and they're going to have to make the adjustment. And you never felt like under Will Muschamp or whoever was the offensive coordinator that there was necessarily, I guess with Mike Bobo, you felt it a little bit, and it just didn't work a lot of times with the running first and then trying to hit some deep shots, and it just never got on track. But before then, it was, we're going to adjust to what you're showing us in the run pass option offense and whatever RPO, whatever the box is calling for, that's what the play is going to be. So you saw some wildly different kind of approaches that weren't necessarily successful from one game to the next. 803-404-6100, the number into the program. Talking some Gamecock football on a Friday in June is where we start this morning. Hope your morning's off to a good start. We'll try to do what we can to help out. Appreciate you checking us out on the video stream if you're doing that as well. Trey, Brian, David, all up with us. Facebook, YouTube Live, and Twitter as well, where you can find the video stream, the station handle at 1075 The Game on Twitter. You're listening to the early game.
It is 1075 The Game.
It is a Friday morning, going to be a fun little weekend. Maybe one of the things you've got planned over the weekend is doing a little house shopping, getting out, driving around, trying to find that dream home, that forever home. Maybe one of the things you should just consider right now is refinancing the current home. And if you do that, you might be able to not only save a lot of money, you might be able to get some cash back in your pocket, pay off a credit or debit card, increase your credit score, put you in a better financial situation, and then wait for the market to cool down a little bit before you actually go out there and purchase that new home. It's just a thought. But what's something you should consider, maybe starting by giving Jacob Crowder, Brian Kovar, the Mortgage Guru team with First Palmetto Bank, a phone call today, 803-719-1005. Again, take a glance at that mortgage statement, see the interest rate, maybe see what you're paying, the equity, and then give them a call. Tell them a little bit of information, see what they can do for you. The first step is just getting approved, and then who knows what you're able to be approved for and how much you're able to save. It's worth giving a chance, and I'd recommend giving Crowder and Kovar a call. The Mortgage Guru team, 803-719-1005. You can email Jacob, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com is the way to do that. Again, find out. You never know what you will learn when you give Jacob Crowder a call. about current interest rates, about saving money, about how much equity you have in your home, and what you might be able to put back in your pocket if you refinance today. 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank.
So yeah, I couldn't hear you in the access there for that first part. Was it goofy at all, or did it end up working out? Did I leave you hanging?
You're on mic. You're on mute. Or is he? I don't know if he's. Is he talking to us or is he doing a report?
Yeah. Patrick, you're on mute.
You're on mute. Yeah, I didn't know. I just saw what you said, but I didn't. So I kind of just kept trying to talk and
Gotcha.
it worked out.
Yeah, then I realized all I got to do is turn on my speaker here and I can hear you through the screen. So he's doing that back and forth.
As long as he is, I guess he got it fixed. You were able to hear me, and
yeah,
I don't see anybody either. Nobody cared to hear me on the actual radio, so nobody texted in on Zip Whip, and
no, we were good there. I didn't see anybody else having problems.
yeah. Oh. Yeah, I made it all the way. It's funny you mentioned that. I got back from the golf and put together a little deck box and got some food and started watching the hockey game. And it went to overtime. It goes to overtime, so I go get in bed and I'm like, oh, the baseball game should be wrapping up. Let me flip over and see what's going on. And it's literally like the first pitch of the game. And I was like, whoa, they're replaying the game already? I'm trying to figure it out. And, the announcer is like, all right, we're finally underway after a 3-hour and 46-minute delay. I was like, oh, goodness, they're starting at 10:46.
Yeah. I had fallen asleep well before then last night. Couldn't make it.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Talking to us there, I think, at the end, or were you recording a traffic update before you jetted?
What?
Were you talking to us before you hopped out of there? Because if you were on mute.
No, I was doing the traffic.
Thank you.
Am I doing the Shepherd's Glass?
Nope, I told you wrong. My fault.
Okay. I'll re-record it then.
Thank you. Yeah, that's already pre-recorded and plugged in.
Okay.
So what time did you end up getting back?
It was 8-ish, I think, because we played slow. Just again, it got a little intense there for a little while. There was some serious reading of greens that were taking place, some yardage walk-offs that needed to happen. That's like I said. Those three guys that I took up there. We've known each other since like 5th and 6th grade, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. So there's a history there of competitiveness that dates back.
What format do you play?
Everybody played their own ball, so everybody carded their own score. But then it's always Benjamin Ryan and me versus Todd Kirkland and Chad McMurray. That's always the setup. So needless to say, it's an ongoing, lifelong match. And
you play best ball on the hole?
Yeah. So it was, I think Benjamin shot 78.
Jeez.
Todd shot 82 or 80. He shot 82, 83. Chad shot 85, 86. And I was right at 90. I tripled 1 and 9 I hit it out of bounds, and Benjamin had me playing extremely by the rules. And so I hit 1 and 9 out of bounds. And so I had to take a 2-stroke penalty in the middle of the fairway. So I had 2 triples, which set me back. And then I missed 3 putts coming in, 2 for birdie and 2 for par. Or excuse me, 4 putts coming in, 15, 16, 17, and 18. That just ridiculous. Like all of them were 6 feet or closer.
We're coming back. And Gamecock Larry call is on hold.
Oh, good.
All right. Thanks for the heads up there. Let me plug this sucker in.
You're up.
So Matt Corral, JT Daniels might be a debate. I'd put Corral if I were voting right now for the preseason All SEC team. Matt Corral's my number 1 vote for All SEC.
Well, who's the better quarterback versus All SEC team?
Matt Corral's a better quarterback.
If you switched their teams or their play callers, would that switch your vote for who's going to make first team All SEC?
Possibly, but it doesn't matter. I don't play this hypothetical game. Patrick, I'm not 25 years old.
Well, all right. Like what about for draft talk? Because that's how right. I would look at it. Who's more draftable?
It's a good question. I think I like Corral. I don't get what the knock would be there. More athletic than Daniels, maybe not as big an arm. Is that the deal? Because I think you got
not as big of a person.
Either. Yeah, I said they were.
But he's not slight necessarily, is he?
He's like right around 200 pounds, and he's I think 6'1". Yeah.
No, I thought he was bigger than that. Really? Okay.
Yeah. Let's see what he said.
Please check that. Please check those measurables. How dare you? If we're going to get into that.
I didn't think he was bigger. I thought it was Reese.
I thought it was 6'3", 220-ish. But
6'1", 205 on ESPN.
You're much closer than that. And Daniels is more the prototypical 6'3", 220 then?
Yep.
I'm guessing. Okay. I can see that. And clearly Georgia has a bunch of history getting guys in the league at quarterback, but it's not like Ole Miss hasn't. And I don't know that. I wonder what the NFL perception is of playing for Lane Kiffin moving forward. I'm guessing there are probably not a lot of great relationships with Lane Kiffin and other coaches or organizations. I don't know. But to me, Matt Corral's going to have a bigger season, is poised to have a bigger season just from what I've seen. What about you, Bill? Would you choose JT Daniels over Matt Corral for number 1 at quarterback in the conference coming in?
I'm trying to think of who they've got kind of around them. I mean, JT Daniels finished the season really good and kind of came on strong there. And you got to remember, he was still coming off that knee injury early. And I feel like as the season developed and he felt more comfortable on his knee, that's when he started to turn a corner for Georgia. George Pickens is out, right, Patrick? He is not. He will not be around this season. Now, Georgia still has some other wide receivers.
Yeah, I was going to say that doesn't even register for me at all because I actually like what they have outside of him because they're going to have 2 just ridiculously freak athletes at tight end with Darnell Washington and Eric Gilbert, like completely controlling the middle of the field. And they have got so much speed on the outside with Dominic Blaylock, Jermaine Burton, Arian Smith's on the Georgia track team as well. So like I will be picking Georgia to win the national championship because I think that combination of just freak athletes on the inside and guys that can absolutely take the top off on the outside. And Jake Fromm was good, but he doesn't have an arm like JT Daniels does. JT Daniels can deliver it any spot on the field.
But didn't Eason have that kind of arm?
Eason did have that kind of arm, but I don't think Eason was very accurate.
Eason had a lot of arm talent, right, Patrick?
Oh, he had
unbelievable arm talent.
He had a absolute cannon, but it would go anywhere. So
Daniels, for the record,
they're both you're not going to be the number 1 ranked quarterback recruit in the country without a rocket arm.
Daniels started the last 4 games. The last 4 games. His worst,
need more than that.
His worst game was against South Carolina because they didn't need him. He was 10 of 16 for 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Other than that, he threw for 401 against Mississippi State, 299 against Missouri, and 392 in the bowl game against Cincinnati. Season statistics were 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, just over 1,200 yards and completed 67% of his passes. If he's comfortable and he's back, and as Patrick's saying, he's got weapons. He's not hurting for guys. They can run the ball. They've got weapons on the outside. They got guys.
Wait a second. Since we're going to do this this football-centric breakdown, give me I need some numbers of those receivers he's got back, because to me, Pickens was their receiver. These other guys have stats?
Yeah.
They got proven production? I need to see some. Bill, I assume you have
I'll pull them up.
that down.
I'll pull them up.
Give me some numbers for those guys. We know Gilbert's fantastic, right? There's no doubt there. The other returning tight end too. Like to see some numbers if we're going to do this breakdown properly.
Georgia had a tight end drafted last year
so he didn't play very much.
Okay. I mean, he blocked a lot. So Dominic Blaylock last year. He was hurt last year. He tore his ACL before last season. But Jermaine Burton, he only played in 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's just recent games. He had 404 yards and 3 touchdowns. His average yards per reception was 15.
Okay. I'm trying to do some comparisons. Unfortunately for the Gamecocks, I don't think there is one, right? It was Shi Smith and then not a lot of wide receiver production last year. So, and is that it? Did you have one more guy that was
Kyrus Jackson is back as a sophomore. He had 36 catches for 514 yards last year. And then again, you got to remember Georgia ran the football effectively last year with Zamir White running 144 times for 779 yards. And then James Cook adding in 45 rushes. They do have the other 5-star running back, Kenny McIntosh, who had 47 rushes for 241 yards.
But Arian Smith is a redshirt freshman, but he is the leadoff runner for the 4x100 track team at Georgia. So,
and I mean, this time of year, speed gets fireworks. We all know that.
Did I? I didn't even go near the computer.
I'm just saying, sometimes you say certain things and fireworks go off in this show. It just happens, Patrick.
There's a ghost. There's a ghost in the producer's room now because I was clicking on the opposite computer. I'm a little freaked out right now.
Check out the live stream. You can see his actual reaction. It's fun. Wouldn't you say this is the least talented stable of running backs that Georgia has returning in recent memory? I get it. Zamir White's pretty good. But compared to what they've had coming back, I don't think they're quite at the level that they've been at before. Is that not fair?
No, I don't think that at all. I mean,
was it Kendall Milton, the 5-star?
Yeah, Kendall Milton. I mean, they're bloated.
And James Cook is back.
James Cook is back. They've got Milton, McIntosh, and Cook. And I was just trying to see it because I have zero clue off the top of my head who they pulled in the previous recruiting class. But I'm just going to go ahead and ballpark it because Georgia lands an elite running back every year that they went ahead and just brought in another big-time elite running back in the previous class. So,
well, I'm not trying to say that they're not talented. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to say that they, in my mind, almost every single year come in with the most talented stable of running backs in the country. And I just don't remember these guys being quite as good as others. But the numbers prove otherwise, or are you just saying the recruiting potential is there as well? Because Zamir White's numbers aren't that impressive for me. 100 plus, and then James Cook didn't have big numbers last year either.
I mean, when you say Zamir White in 11 games, 11 games, Bill, I mean, and they mixed it up. I mean, you're talking about guys who Zamir White didn't get, if you do 11 games, he was averaging 14 carries a game. I think they're fine. I think you look at it, certainly.
But that's my point. Like, fine for Georgia running backs isn't as good as they've been in years past. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, Zamir White has underperformed compared to his recruiting.
Well, he's had the knee injury, and he's been behind some guys, and I think again, much like JT Daniels, he'll be fully healthy this year. The hard part for them is trying to keep these running backs happy and keep everybody content with the number of carries they had. You look at guys last year, I mean, in terms of just running backs, 5 guys got 35 carries or more. They've got another kid, Dejon Edwards, who had more carries than Milton last year at 37. The question will be for Georgia, I think, is how do they structure their offense? And because they have so many weapons, do they try to spread the ball around, or do they go to 2 or 3 particular playmakers? Patrick, you did point out that it doesn't bother you too much that George Pickens isn't there, even though Pickens last year was tied for the team lead in receptions and was 1 yard behind Kearis Jackson, and he had 513 yards. He did have 6 touchdowns. Do you try to spread the ball around, get everybody involved, or do you say, hey, we've got 2 really good tight ends in Darnell Washington and Eric Gilbert. We're going to focus on those guys, and then the wide receivers will get what's left over in the passing game, and we're going to focus on our top 2 running backs and split carries, and then we'll hand out a few carries here or there to the other guys as the game goes along.
Yeah, because it's not like those 2 tight ends are like just pass catchers. They're not like Travis Kelce's who don't block very much. They're both well over 250 pounds and strong. So I'm expecting just heavy sets, 12 personnel all the time, 2 tight ends in the field 90% of the time, run the ball, take what you can over the middle, and then just pick and choose your shots to go deep, because everyone on the outside is going to be like 4.4 or less, just blazing speed on the outsides.
Our buddy Rooster P, Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Morning from Tsumba, Mississippi. The 18-wheeler west of us today. I'm not sure if that's east or west of Mississippi. I guess it's probably west, but not positive on that one. Bacon, egg, and cheese on an English muffin, homemade. Gamecock Larry's my hero. I like sports and pie. Beer is good, and people are crazy. Have a good. How about that, Rooster P? Train of thought on the 18-wheeler in Tsumba. Did I say that right? Tsumba, Mississippi is how he pronounced it there. Well done, sir. Well done. Thanks for adding a little personality to our Friday morning extravaganza here, where we've gotten into an SEC-centric discussion. So breaking down Georgia in that segment there, JT Daniels and Matt Corral at the top of the league, maybe 1, 2, 3 guys max, kind of right under them on the next tier of quarterbacks. And then I think a lot of programs are where South Carolina is in a lot of ways, with unproven a big question mark going in at quarterback this year. We'll break it down as we continue to roll on. Also hear from Rooster P's hero there, our favorite 86-year-old caller this morning, all set to go. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
It was a late night. I didn't make it all the way through Virginia and Texas. Actually, I barely made it to the first pitch because that was about the time hockey was wrapping up. And then, you know what? When you got a sleep number bed, you're ready to go to bed. You want to get a great night of sleep. That's exactly what I did last night. Watched some hockey, game went overtime, goal was scored, and then I flipped over, saw the baseball game was starting, but I thought, hey, I can get a great night of sleep, wake up rested, refreshed, ready to go, all because I put that sleep number setting on 45 and got a fantastic night of sleep. You can do the same. It's a good weekend for sleep, actually. You'll be able to maybe get caught up a little bit as we head into July 4th weekend, and maybe you need to make the switch today to a sleep number bed. You can discover proven quality sleep during the lowest prices of the season. All Sleep Number 360 smart beds are on sale starting at $899 plus free premium delivery and setup when you add a base, but this ends Monday. Don't wait around. Go make the switch today. 2 stores to do that at. You can visit one in Irma and Harbison Boulevard across from Buffalo Wild Wings, the other in Columbia, 2 Notch Road across from Sand Hills Mall. You can always visit them on the web, sleepnumber.com. Again, the lowest prices of the season. All Sleep Number 360 smart beds are on sale starting at $899. You don't want to miss this deal. You can also get free premium delivery and setup when you add a base, but it ends Monday. So go ahead, make that switch now. Make the switch to Sleep Number and find out what a great night of sleep is truly like. Oh, popping and cracking going on there. Sonny, I think with the recruiting, I don't think you can worry about stars. Talking to somebody the other day that was in that industry, they could go out. so many guys are not rated where they should be, or they haven't been seen, or it's just even the recruiting industry is so far behind right now because you haven't been able to have those camps that you typically had, or you haven't been able to go to high schools and just look at kids, or you didn't even get a good breakdown. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about star ratings. The recruiting industry will get called up here in the next 2 or 3 months when they're still able to go to all these rivals camps or Nike camps, or you get the actual 7-on-7s, and they'll start to figure out who some of the other prospects were. I don't think he's necessarily focusing on in-state guys. I think he's just they're finding guys that fit what he wants to build right now. I think you got to be willing to go under the radar to find guys, because I don't know if some of the elite prospects are necessarily going to just jump on board. Try and get a couple elite prospects, but by and large, you're going to have to find guys that fit the culture you want and that can develop into good football players. Patrick, was that it for me today? That's all I see. So am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Good. And then you saw Josh send an email back. We probably need to try and cut that sleep number again.
Yeah, because I talked to him on the phone yesterday. This little monitor here is scratchy, and you never cut out, so I didn't think that it was actually on the access. I thought it was just through the monitor, but he said it was scratchy, so
Okay.
I guess I wasn't hearing things.
Oh, wow. Boy, just wait till Hope shows up. I'm just scrolling through Twitter, and apparently yesterday afternoon she put out that yes, as of yesterday, there were 6 months exactly until Christmas Eve.
Isn't that as of today?
She put it yesterday. She's got a little.
So Christmas Eve. Today's the 25th. Yeah.
Yeah, as she said, as of today, there are 6 months until Christmas Eve. I guess that means Walmart will have their Christmas stuff up here in about 40 days.
Gonna have a minute, almost exactly a minute when we get back.
Gotcha.
And which is happening right now. Andrew.
Hour 2 on the way, and we'll continue to break down these returning quarterbacks because you got, in my opinion, 1-2, like we talked about, at the top of the league with JT Daniels and Matt Corral of Ole Miss. Then you got maybe Miles Brennan. Are they really saying at LSU that Max Johnson might beat him out? Is that the deal, Patrick?
I think they might be saying that for the sake of competition, and coaches saying that everyone has to compete for every spot, but I can't imagine that it's truly a competition.
Okay, so I think you can put those 3 maybe in the same category. Will Rogers at Mississippi State ended up being the quarterback down there. You got Missouri's quarterback coming back in Connor Bazelak, which has experience, okay? After that, you got some big-time question marks. I get it that Bryce Young in Alabama probably in a good spot. Emory Jones in Florida probably in a good spot. But I'm guessing, Bill, in hour number 2, you will drag down that Florida program like usual.
We got a chance for a national championship this year. I don't know what Patrick's talking about, Georgia. It's all Gators.
Okay, interesting. Didn't see that coming. And how about by the way, the Cubs throw a no-hitter last night. First combined no-hitter in franchise history, 7th this year in Major League Baseball, and no one seems to care. That's where we go. Hour 2, come on. Brett, over there, Sonny, like you mentioned.
Boy, I'm becoming an old man. 118 round of golf, 118 holes.
I think the hour plus drive there and back probably doesn't help the soreness factor.
No, it didn't. Yeah, we got back because we teed off at 1:30. We got done, I think, and then I went to my buddy's house because we all met. It was 7:30ish when I got home. It was actually now that I say that, I mean it was 7:30 because I walked in and the hockey was just starting, so it was right around 8 when I walked in. Oh, got to go out to a little kid's birthday party tomorrow at I think it's pronounced Udula Farms. It's like kind of like a safari, I guess, or they've got all kinds. You just stay in your car, and they've got all kinds of wild animals out there.
You just
Supposed to be
drive
out
through?
Sally, South Carolina.
Wait,
10
you just
a.m. in the
drive
morning.
through it?
Got any llamas out there?
Got any what?
Llamas? Got some llama?
I think they do, and I
You
think
just
they're wearing
drive through it in
pajamas.
your own car?
Huh?
You just drive through it in your own car?
I think that's how it works.
How is that a party then?
I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna. That you're not asking the right question.
2021, baby. Those drive-through parties. Yeah, you feed the animals, Craig says. Craig apparently has the skinny.
I have seen ones like that where you're in kind of like a train or something. Or I've seen ones where you just drive through, but that's not very social for a birthday party.
I'm guessing that there's going to be a farmhouse we will go to, and it'll be a little bit different, and they'll that's going to be similar to that. I'm guessing we won't all be in our cars waving at each other in a circle, but Austin and I are going to get up in the morning and go to that. And then hopefully I haven't looked at the weather because it was calling for a little bit of rain tomorrow.
Sonny, no worries there. Been there twice since I've been here. No, just once this time. Usually twice a trip. The Bayou Burger. Fantastic.
The what burger?
Bayou Burger.
Bayou? What's on a Bayou burger?
What would you guess, Bill?
Well, I'd guess some kind of Cajun seasoning. I don't know what kind of cheese you'd put on that.
And peppers. I'm not a cheese guy, so I even tell them to take the cheese off.
Really? What kind of cheese are you telling them to take off?
Whatever they're throwing on there. I don't care.
Probably pepper jack.
You think pepper jack? That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that. So it's got peppers.
Yep. Good stuff. A little
Sweet.
spicy.
A little spicy? Okay.
My pops is a big fan of the rib special there at Greg's. $16, I think.
Patrick, do you have Peacock? You don't have Peacock, do you?
I have it. Yeah, I have some version of it. There's a free version and a paid version. I have the free version that you get through your provider.
Gotcha.
So I don't really know what that entails. I'm not sure that I can watch things on demand, or maybe it's just not commercial free. I don't know. I haven't really attempted to watch that many things on Peacock so far.
I see Boss Baby 2 is coming out on Peacock next week.
I watched Luca yesterday. Pretty good.
Yeah, my kids watched it too. It's hilarious.
What was the consensus?
Thought it was pretty good.
The 6-year-old wasn't a big fan. The 8-year-old liked it.
Why didn't he like it?
The 6-year-old was just being a pain.
I don't know. I can kind of agree. It wasn't my favorite. I may have to rewatch it.
I thought it was funny.
I'm told I missed some pivotal moments making popcorn because we had to make 2 batches of popcorn when we watched it the other night.
Makes sense.
I missed some key plot lines that would have changed my opinion.
I guess it's pretty straightforward. Kid's a sea monster. Kid's a sea monster. And he can't tell anyone that he's a sea monster.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was pretty straightforward, and
But there was a funny cat, and the guy that talks. They were very Italian. Some of the characters were very Italian, so they were very funny when they would go on their long rants and be shaking their hands.
Both kids. We discussed this Wednesday night because we discussed it a little bit off air. I think Monday or Tuesday. Both kids did agree. They were big fans of the colors, just the overall like the brightness of the movie. I think even also was like, yeah, I wanted to jump in the water, and we were like, you know, it's a cartoon, right? Like he's like, yeah, but it just looked pretty. It looked like a very pretty place. I was like, yeah, that is true.
I knew I was gonna like it because I've been watching lots of videos of the Italian Riviera, and it's just an aesthetically pleasing place overall.
Been taking daily trips to the Italian Riviera on your walking tour YouTube shows?
Yep.
Okay.
Lots of them. Not this week because I've been here, but
what is this? Let me look and see what you got here. Hold on. What am I looking for on YouTube?
I could tell you probably the channel that they're all on. The channel is, let's see if I can find
one. Well, apparently the last YouTube video I watched was Chance the Rapper. No problem.
Pro Walk Tours. Pro Walk is one word. Pro Walk Tours.
Well, of course, these have to be pro walks. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can't have an amateur out here doing this.
But they're good because they also have closed captions, so I can watch them without volume, and I can get facts while I go.
This is good. Tim, I made Pro Walk Tours.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. What do I want to go? This is very interesting. Venice.
Yeah. And they're long. You get the whole city. Venice one's 3.5 hours.
Oh yeah, it is 3 hours 20 minutes. Good grief! I'll just watch the one that's an hour.
You just get a real nice feel for the vibe. That city.
All right, I'm just gonna go with. Is it Trapani, Sicily?
Sounds right.
An hour and 36. All right, I'm out of the show now. I'm in Sicily.
It's really soothing. Put the closed captions on. You're up.
12 is the number I'm seeing of official visitors coming to Gamecock football this weekend. That number, according to Gamecock Central, 12. That seems a little high. Bill, you're the resident recruiting nerd. What do you think? Is that about typical? Is that a result of this dead period and then June being overwhelmingly active for Gamecock football and everybody else around the country?
I don't know, because I don't know if this is going to be a philosophy that Shane Beamer wants, is to get guys on campus during the summer as opposed to during the season. I feel like you've seen a shift in coaching philosophies across the board that a lot of coaches don't like doing the in-season official visits, because obviously you're trying to game plan, you're trying to get your team ready. You don't have time Friday and Saturday to spend with the recruits like you typically would on an off day, if that makes sense, so that you would during the summer, or that you would typically during December, or as it used to be during January. So I do feel like there's been a movement over the last 10 or 15 years to get away from the to get away from the in-season official visits. Now, there will still be a couple that happen. I'm not saying that they're going to completely go away. I think Jamari Lyons, a 6'4", 300-pound defensive tackle out of Florida, is scheduled to take an official visit on the weekend of the Kentucky game. I think another player or two have lined up some official visits for South Carolina during the season. I wonder if this is Shane Beamer's philosophy to try and host more of the official visits during the summer like this, when you can really get a feel for the campus. I don't know when you want to typically sell South Carolina. I would guess the summer, but then again, if it's 3 million degrees out there, I don't know if that's the best selling point. I do know this. When I was doing recruiting, and I never talked to Dabo Swinney, but it was during the kind of the Tommy Bowden era and the very beginning of Dabo. There was a lot of Clemson coaches that I knew at that time who said our best selling point is getting kids up here during the summer because it's such a nice place during the summer. And everything about the campus, you still got people on campus because of the community. It still looks pretty full. It's not completely empty. And so they would always push to get more kids on campus, even though official visits weren't allowed during the summer back then. That was kind of a philosophy that they had, getting kids in and being able to showcase Clemson during the summer, and then obviously trying to get them back for a game. Is that the same philosophy that Shane Beamer wants to have, getting kids on official visits now during the summer and then hoping to get them back for games? It's going to be interesting to see the evolution of this with Beamer being a first-time head coach and what exactly he wants to do to set up his kind of recruiting agenda and move forward with that. So, 12 in a typical year, I would think 12 is high. I would think 12 is very high. But again, this might be exactly how Beamer and his staff want to set things up. I'd have to go back and look. I don't know off the top of my head the number of guys that they've had on official visits so far. I would say it's been close to 15, maybe 16. So that would put them, if they've got 12 this weekend, right around 30, somewhere in the ballpark of 30. And that's over half of the allotted official visits you're allowed to use.
Now, I know during the Spurrier era, and you tell me if it goes back before then, Bill, you would know that there was always at least one big official visit weekend during the basketball season that coincided with a home basketball game. Bring the guys to Colonial Life Arena. Never forget the Jadeveon Clowney chants when Clowney was visiting, and we've seen it happen for a couple of other guys, maybe on a smaller scale through the years. So was that the philosophy then of that coaching staff, or was that just more a result of the natural recruiting calendar that that would be always close to the old school signing day in February?
Yeah, that was the result of the old school calendar that you had, with signing day being in February and trying to get your last shot at a kid that's coming on your campus to make your last sales pitch. And I feel like there's coaches, until you brought this up, I haven't even kind of, I guess in some ways I'm seeing the change in the recruiting, and so I haven't done the numbers. I would wonder where South Carolina is at in terms of official visits across the country. I would think South Carolina, in terms of hosting official visitors so far, would actually be higher. Would be in maybe the top 10, top 15% of schools to have hosted official visitors. I'm not saying this is a great thing. I'm not saying that South Carolina's getting a ton of kids in that other schools aren't. But the decision to have two huge weekends here in June, 2 weeks ago, June the 11th through 13th, and now June 25th through 27th for official visits, I would think that South Carolina would be up there in terms of official visitors already hosted, or after this weekend hosted during the summer months.
The state newspaper has an article about one of those visitors this weekend is Oscar Delp, and how he has family connections in the state of South Carolina. I believe his dad actually played for Eric Kimry's dad, Bill, at Dutch Fork High School, and Eric Kimry is his lead recruiter, and they have a house and that has a bunch of history in the area as well with, I believe, his mom's father. So Oscar Delp's grandfather there, number 85 player in the class of 2022, I believe is a tight end and a big-time piece of this recruiting class. Bill, I think we get the questions seemingly every day. I forget who brought it up a little bit earlier today. I think it was Sonny talking about the 3 stars that are attached to all. It's 7 still right now commits to Carolina, even though Shane Beamer gave the heads up the other day that there'll be a couple of more. They just have not been identified, I guess, to this point. But in the coming months, and I know you said, well, the coaching staff has to not only recruit guys and get commits, but then also get them to sign, develop them, and the whole thing. But what will give fans encouragement or optimism is to get a couple of more highly or thought of guys in the coming months before the season. Isn't that fair to see a 4-star or a couple of 4-star guys? And I know it's a weird time for the recruiting industry just because there hasn't been the availability before. But wouldn't you agree that is something that would be a target right now for Shane Beamer and his coaching staff to land guys who have some more stars attached to their name?
Well, yes and no. From a fan standpoint, yes, yeah. You want to, because from a fan standpoint, it's nice to see kids choose your school, but you want to have kids that you go, man, that guy can come in here and make an instant impact, and I can't wait to see him. Steven Garcia was a good recruit. He was a 4-star quarterback, but he wasn't viewed in the same light as a Deshaun Watson or obviously a Trevor Lawrence or. He wasn't. I'd have to go back and look and see exactly where he was in the overall scheme of things, but he wasn't. I don't think he was a top 50 recruit. And I only say that because his commitment, though, still. I mean, I remember being at. I think it was one of the places, a restaurant in the Vista, and he walked in, and it was like Elvis Presley walked in the room. Like people were fired up because it was the first huge commitment for Steve Spurrier.
You remember when Elvis Presley used to walk in a room with the
of course, it was crazy.
You're 39. I don't think that.
All right, I'm assuming this is how people reacted when Elvis walked in.
Patrick, is your example of that Justin Bieber? Is that what you would say? I think we got to get a
that's probably most appropriate for my generation. I'm trying to think. I mean, I would have said, well, I guess even Michael Jackson was before you guys.
Yeah, no, that's the one that I would have said.
Garcia was actually listed as, this is according to 24/7 Sports, was the number 56 overall national prospect at that time, the number 5 quarterback overall. But I only just say that because, yeah, you go back and I think for any school, you want to land kids that, as a fan, you land kids that make you very excited, believe that they can come in and instantly change your program, especially when you're a 2-8 program. You get excited about a kid who can come in and instantly maybe make the impact that, say, a Marcus Lattimore had, or, you can kind of go up and down Clowney, you can go up and down the list there. Now, as a coach, I don't know. Is it coaches speak when I've talked to them in the past and they're like, yeah, we don't pay attention to what you put out there for your recruiting rankings. We're coaches. We believe what we see, and you're 5'6" and you've never played football. How can you analyze a football player? Like, do you believe that, or do you think that they look at the recruiting rankings a little bit too and be like, yeah, we need to get this guy because he's probably really good and he's going to make the fan base really happy for us?
Well, I am smiling huge right now because of what Patrick has done on Twitter. Bill, have you seen this yet?
I don't know.
First of all, if you're not following Patrick on Twitter, you need to. If for no other reason than you don't like his takes and you can argue with him, and he will be happy to engage with you. @_Patrick Perrett. Peerret is how Patrick spells his last name. Where did you find this, sir? First of all,
it's some data analyst for Sharp Football and PFF, who are like the 2 analytics companies. I don't know how he gets his stuff, but he's I guess a scout guy, and I just saw it liked on my timeline by another draft analyst.
I feel like I understand completely now. I've been a bit confused. I shouldn't say no. Actually, I haven't been confused. It just hasn't been crystal clear to me before why Will Muschamp hasn't worked out as a head coach. And I think this graphic, this visual, completely explains it to me. It is a beautiful mind of run fits. Would you agree, Patrick?
I mean, yeah. And when an NFL draft person or NFL data analyst says this is the most complex set of run fits I've ever seen, and you combine that with Will Muschamp using that as an excuse seemingly every week that we couldn't get our run fits right, you might believe why it's not a good idea to have college kids who are student athletes running more complex run fits than NFL players who do this 24/7 as their full-time job.
But not just that. It's that this is what's going through his head. Right? This is all that's going through his head. All this information, all these different assignments, as opposed to, hey man, you got to get your guys to play hard for you, right? You have to understand their spirit and the momentum of the game, and not kicking 57-yard field goals or having 7.5-minute drives with 8 minutes left in the game when you're down multiple scores. But I can see how you might get lost in the trees there. You might not see the forest through the trees. This is unreal.
I just imagine like Jordan Birch, who has used just pure physicality to run over kids in Skeeza for his entire life, and walks into the room on the first day, and Will Muschamp hands him this. And he's like, "All right, study up, son." What are you even thinking at that point?
I mean, but this, I think, is a glimpse, because we haven't had it like this. I just haven't seen it in front of me. Maybe I'm a visual learner. I need to see it. This is a glimpse into, hey, this is how you beat teams on Tuesday, right? If you know every single assignment on every single run fit, that those of us who have worked 20-hour days as coaches have figured out this is exactly what you need to do on this call, on this specific run that may or may not happen on Saturday, that this is how you're going to win games. That is mind-boggling to me. Bill, can you describe what you're seeing? Because you're seeing this for the first time as well, right?
Well, I don't like. Have you guys like clicked in to read some of the terminology?
Yeah.
No, I haven't even done that yet.
I mean, I don't understand. So, like, I guess let's just start with the A. It says A, and it says Pro A gap lead. It's in the regular base mic 3 buzz run fits. I mean, like right there, just reading all that, I'm like, good Lord, what is going on? So it breaks down, and it's got the buck, I guess. I don't know, a T, an N, an E. The Sam linebacker, I get the Mike and the Will. And so, like with the Will linebacker, he's going to shoot the gap, and underneath it says "knock it back." And like, so I guess.
Okay, wait a second. I want to follow along with you, and I've got the thing in front of me. So we're doing this on radio. So you're doing this is a series. We got A through H, right? So there are 4 separate.
All within the umbrella of the bench sky run fits.
Right. There are 4 separate diagrams of a defensive play under one play, if that makes sense. There are 4 variations, right? And I guess it depends on the formation and then on who's leading, right? So I got to zoom out from where you were even, Bill, to try to make this digestible for anybody who's listening right now. So apparently this call on defense would be regular bench sky. Is that correct? You guys with me on this?
Yep. I guess. I don't know.
And then there is A through H. So I guess actually on one side, it's all in the pro I formation, right? On the left side of what I'm seeing. And on the right side, it's the twins I formation, right? And then you have A gap leads, B gap leads, power O, and zone cuts. And this is all under one call, but then it's different diagrams for each play. Oh, wow. And so, and then you go through the Sam linebacker that you're talking about, Bill, the middle linebacker, the Will linebacker, the tackle, the nose, the end, and the buck. Then you got the corners back there and the safeties.
Okay, a couple things here. 1, this obviously seems excessive. 2, like, is this actually a Will Muschamp-like run fit card? 3, does it explain, Patrick, you've joked before you found this, that he'd come into a press conference after a game and be like, oh, we just got to do our run fits better. So my question, now that you see this card, if you assume it is Will Muschamp's, do you be like, oh, I totally understand what he means now. They should have followed the bench sky run fits to a T. That's exactly what he means. I get it now. It's totally not his fault. He had the run fits down pat. It's the players. And number 4, if you see all this, and I think this is the most important question, if you see this and you believe it to be true, do you now feel a little bit better about Clayton White and the defense when they say we're just going to simplify and go play?
Well, when Clayton White tells us it's math, right? Defense is math. That's what I like to hear. Like, just tell me that. Okay, so you understand all of this. But then the genius of being a good coach is understanding very complex things, but making it very simple for your players. And this seems to be the opposite. Like, football is a complex game, don't get me wrong. But then when you only explain that in a complex way, this reminds me of some college classes I had. Brilliant professors, terrible teachers. Didn't know how to teach a lick. They understood the theory of it, but they could not relate it to someone as dumb as me coming in with very little knowledge. And you got to be good at simplifying, man. This is fascinating. Again, I've retweeted this thing from Patrick at _Patrick Perret. You want to see this is coming from Pro Football Focus or one of the analysts that works for them about, let's say that Will Muschamp has the most, what did he call it? Involved or
most in-depth run fits I've ever seen in a playbook.
I mean, to me, that is an insult. That's how I would take that. If you're an offensive genius, it's a compliment, right? Oh man, most in-depth routes, and this is why they could do this on offense where other schools could. On the other side, especially you're playing with energy and passion and effort, and that's a huge part of defense. Whew, wow, that visual is stunning this morning. Well done, Patrick, on the internet portion of the show. If you'd like to weigh in on the program, 803-404-6100 is the number to the show. Speaking of that, we got to get to our buddy, favorite 86-year-old caller, Gamecock Larry. On the other side of this break, we'll do that and hear what he's got to say. Maybe he could follow some of what we were describing for those Will Muschamp run fits. But Bill, doesn't it now make you understand where Will Muschamp in the post-game press conference was asked why they can't stop the run? All this stuff's going through it. And how you got those looks.
It's not going through Will Muschamp's head. In Will Muschamp's head, it's like, I had it. If they'd have just studied their play card all week.
No, but that's what I mean. But what about the times that the guys actually did do what he wanted them to do? They were in position to make those plays, and they just didn't make a tackle. Can you imagine the frustration? Can you imagine?
That's why you get the Muschamp angry face. That's exactly why you get the Muschamp angry. That's why you get him punching the whiteboard. Do your job.
But even when you do your job, you still have to make the play, and that's the problem. Wow, I feel like we've learned a lot this morning so far. We'll see if we can keep learning, or we can make you dumber and probably do that as well. It's the early game. It's 107.5 again.
Clear.
I feel like I might need to draw up something similar for my playbook for meal times at my house these days. With an 8, 6, and 1+-year-old, we can't contain the mess. We actually went out to dinner last night, and I turned into that guy where I was picking stuff up off the floor as I was leaving because it was embarrassing to have it all around the table. Then, my wife will tell me, like, hey, we paid for that. Other people, I've worked in a restaurant before, been that guy. I bring all this up simply to tell you that I'm a little bit more associated with my floors these days than typical, and even more fortunate and respectful of and thankful that I've had Zero Res carpet and air duct cleaning out to my house. They've done a great job cleaning my carpets, tiles in the kitchen and bathrooms, cleaning the area rug for me. And it's how Zero Res does it that sets them apart from any other carpet cleaning service. They have a patented powered water system. You can find out all the details, ZeroResColumbia.com. What I needed to know, what was most impressive to me, no harsh chemicals involved in their cleaning process, nothing for me to worry about when it comes to my kids. Also, no leftover soapy residue attracting more dirt back into the carpets after they are cleaned. So my carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well. ZeroResColumbia.com, again, where you can go and book your appointment today. Give them a call at 803-262-4020. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119, plus a free hallway. When you mention me, Tim Hill, that's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Oh, Patrick's doing all the weather. This port of Trapani, I think I want to go there.
Why the port of Trapani?
I don't know. It's the first place I looked at on the walking tour, and it looks beautiful. It does look like something out of Luca.
Hey, can you just search OpX for Fat Guy or Frank Martin?
Yeah. Open.
I think I have it separated from not just the intro. I think it's under Frank. And I have them labeled as like Frank 001s. It's a great call.
I've see all of. I don't know what else it would be.
Not in the Frank ones?
I see them all, but nothing says Fat Guy or anything like that.
But they are labeled or they're not?
No, they're labeled.
Gotcha. Yeah, it might not be in there separately. Might not have done that. Chris might have just put it straight in an intro.
Patrick, you're right. I kind of like this little. I mean, this little walking tour is interesting.
Yeah.
I think I want to take a vacation now. Trapani is renowned for its Easter celebrations and Holy Week traditions. Sicily's pretty safe to go to, right? Yeah, it's a pretty safe place.
It's the home of the mafia.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I feel like it's
depends on your relationship with organized crime, sir.
It depends on my what? My relationship
with organized crime. Oh, that's my boy Mark, right?
The person who thinks who I don't feel better about myself because he said as usual Bill is right.
I'm going to label his name in here. What should I label it as? I was going to go Tim's Nemesis.
Yeah.
I'll put Mark Clown Guy. For those of you on the video stream, we just had a text at 7:20. Okay, so what? Who cares? Typical stupid topic once again. Wow.
All right, bud.
Patrick, can you confirm what this other guy says? He clicked the link and the playbook is 730 pages.
What link?
I'm guessing the link into that Pro Football Focus stuff.
Oh, it's just yeah.
Oh, good. The next part of the video was filmed early the next morning on Friday, so as to see local fish market and the fishmongers.
It's just somebody responding that says 730 pages and the PDF is indexed as well.
Wow.
You can see on Thursday, Muschamp standing in front of the defensive meeting room. All right, guys, if you'll flip to page 637, you'll see here JT Daniels has got him lined up in the bench right Ralph formation that we've been discussing. Ernest, I'm going to need you to fit the this gap. It does explain a lot. Like if that's his playbook for the defensive line run fits, what was his playbook for the secondary? You'd have thought it'd have been just like, hey, guard the guy in front of you, but I guess it was not. A Range Rover over there. I'm guessing that guy was in the mafia. Oh, good. We're going to go look at the port before we go back to the market. All right. Well, it is a big port. Well, there's a wine bar.
Now, this is an old-timey clip of the day. 1992. Tony Dorsett, 99-yard touchdown. How long ago? 39 years ago.
Yeah, it's not that long ago. That's just a baby.
All right. You're up.
This is fascinating. Sometimes social media will do that. There's a lot that's not great about social media out there, but to be able to see the Will Muschamp run fit breakdowns and to see someone this is someone who analyzes these things for a living there, Patrick. This is where you got this from, the Pro Football Focus analyst to say.
Yeah. And these, I mean, it's playbooks get published, I guess, after a certain period of time. So what it looks like is this is one of his Florida playbooks.
Okay.
So presumably most of these concepts were transferred to South Carolina, but perhaps they evolved and maybe he cut down a little bit. But from what we know and context clues after post games, I doubt they were really. And also the fun thing is if you look on the thread that this tweet is in, they have the video of him slamming the board at Texas, and he shows Will Muschamp was yelling about the bench chop concept.
Can you if you haven't seen it, watch the video, because the natural assumption is, oh, the video sped up for me to watch it. Look how quickly he's able to scribble out the circles and the defensive positions. I don't write that great when I take time and focus on what I'm doing. Muschamp's over here it looks perfect. The O's are perfectly lined up, just like the offensive line. The two receivers out to the left.
And writing on a whiteboard is difficult.
It's yeah. As you've learned, it's very difficult. And then he throws in a nice close up right jab on the board that leaves a mark.
I think it was more of a hook, personally. Maybe an overhand right.
I don't know. It's definitely an overhand right, but I mean.
So again, this is a Pro Football Focus employee who does this full time. And the tweet today is Muschamp has the most in-depth run fits I've ever seen in a playbook, which makes me love him even more. Several of you weighed in on this on the Cool Care Heating Air text line. Anonymous Texter says, I clicked the link and the playbook is 730 pages. Patrick, your context on that is what exactly?
It's a guy that I guess just publishes old playbooks and catalogs them all. So yeah, it's confirmed. There's a PDF of it. It's something.
That's not just the defensive playbook, is it?
I guess I'd have to scroll through and take a peek. I'll find that out.
Thank you. Don in Hampton hit us up earlier and just said, huh? As we were trying to describe these run fits. Wes Colatall, great one. He says, this is the perfect time for the Frank Martin, that fat guy. He's blocked this fat guy. It's implication of football. It's I mean, that's the thing for coaches, right? You have to have the aptitude to do this type of stuff, Bill, right? You got to be able to do the X's and O's. You got to be able to, in football, you got to be able to get on the whiteboard. And then you also have to be able to translate all that information and then make sure that your guys are playing at the optimal speed, passion, energy level as well. And to do all of that is one of the toughest, I think, formulas in all of sports. And it's what separates good coaches from bad coaches, clearly, the ones that are able to do that consistently. Transfer a bunch of information, but also do it in a way where you don't have guys getting in their own way and being able to play at optimal speed.
This is just the defensive playbook, by the way.
Well, Kurt Roper's was throw right, throw left, run up the middle. Kurt Roper's was not very complicated. They balanced each other out.
It is pretty interesting. Like the first couple pages are just the Florida defensive philosophy. Like number 1, take away what our opponent does best. Game plan each week to do that. In parentheses, be multiple. So you know that was written by Will Muschamp. Critical factors: big play / turnover ratio. Big plays equal runs greater than 10 yards and passes greater than 20 yards, affect the quarterback, red zone, control line of scrimmage, and then situational philosophy. This is interesting. Like first and second down, stop the run, take away their best receiver, defend tendencies, third and fourth down, get off the field, and then all these other things. And Gator priorities in life, God, family, turnovers, ball hawk, red zone defense, third down defense. And then we start to get into all the formations.
You can understand, I think if you, to be completely serious for a minute, I think you can understand why people would be impressed with Will Muschamp in an interview setting.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, because he shows up and he's completely prepared. He's like, look, here's the playbook. This is exactly what we're going to do. You don't have to read it. It's 730 pages, but it's all right here. And we're going to implement it in our program. And I think Muschamp, I mean, clearly there, whether you want to agree or not, that there is a charisma there, because I think there is with his players. It might not have shown in a media setting where he was always on the defensive. He did the playbook for that one. There was at least 5 pages, but he clearly connected with his players, and I can see where as an athletic director or somebody, you're like, yeah, I get it. It didn't work out at Florida, but he's learned from his mistakes, and look at how organized he is and what his philosophies are and how he's going to be able to do this. Now, with that being said, you still have to translate it to what exactly you're doing, what your players can understand on the field. And it's very evident that if this is the philosophy he used at South Carolina, players couldn't understand that. It's simply too much.
No, I disagree, but there's a difference between understanding and executing. I think they all understood. I think they very rarely were able to execute. And that's the other part that you have to do as a coach, right? You have to scheme to what your players can do. And if you are trying to get them to do something they can't do, you're a bad coach. It comes down to being that simple. I'm interested in hearing a more nuanced take from our favorite 86-year-old caller this morning, Gamecock Larry, joining us. Been very patient on the Love Chevy phone lines at 803-404-6100. Larry, how the heck are you, sir? And what do you think about our discussion this morning? I'm sure.
Praises.
I don't know. I'm so confused. I don't understand. I couldn't even tell you my Social Security number right now. You got me confused. I don't know what you're talking about. We got a College World Series going on right now, and you talk about some off the wall.
Whoa. There's no way. Gamecock Larry, you're not telling me you stayed up to first pitch last night at 10:45 and watched all that Texas-Virginia game? I ain't believing it.
Yes, sir, I did. I stayed up all night. That's why I was That's why I kept dozing off in my chair while I was on hold listening to you. But let me tell you something. Thank you very much, Mr. P. At least somebody out there loves me. I love you too, buddy. Stay safe out there. This world's crazy. Now let me see what I want to talk about. Root Hog, the Legion of Doom. My posse is growing. We'll be full force 2 weeks from today. Full force. Rooster P, Dr. Bulldog, McMillan, Dr. Oh, Lord, Dr. Gamecock making the law. We're loading up for you, buddy. 2 weeks from today. Mark it down. But let me tell you about the World Series. Vanderbilt will beat North Carolina State 2 games to win that side. It's going to be a hard
Today's night.
thing to do, but they got the 2 best pitchers supposedly to go against the Wolfpack, so they're going to win that side. Now the Mississippi State and Texas. Mississippi State, they might lose tomorrow, not more, I think it is. But if they lose the first one, they will lose the second one. Then we're going to go down to the last 3 games of the series, Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. Mississippi State will take it, and they will be the College World Series of 2021 champions. You want to tell me anything else about? I don't understand what you're talking about, Tim. That thing says, I don't forget what it. I'll say that Monday or Tuesday. I'm confused, buddy. I'm confused, but I still love you. Go Gamecock.
Gamecock Larry, ladies and gentlemen. Rolling. His posse is growing at 3, so watch out.
Need that last part as part of our intro. I'm confused. It just needs to be. It needs to be one of the intros for the show.
I'm shocked we were in a Gamecock football debate, and Gamecock Larry is the one that changed the subject.
I don't understand his sporting philosophies because he doesn't keep up with South Carolina players when they leave the program, yet he follows other programs in the College World Series that aren't named South Carolina, and then we discuss South Carolina football to make him happy. And yet we still get yelled at.
I think it's because Will Muschamp left. So any discussion of Will Muschamp and Gamecock football in the past, off the table. No longer on Gamecock Larry's radar anymore. He's all about, the fact that he did stay up and watch last night's game, that's impressive. Yet, I'm not sure that I believe it because you notice he didn't mention a single play in last night's game where Texas beats Virginia, right? I'm just saying.
Nobody stayed up and watched that unless you were a fan of those 2 teams.
And are we going to have a Anchorman-style showdown between the Legion of Doom and Gamecock Larry and his posse at a Gamecock football game? Because if so, not only would I like to encourage that, but I think 107.5 The Game would sponsor an event.
Not Anchorman style.
No, we give out the foam fingers. They could all have foam fingers, right? That kind of jousting going on. Gamecock Larry would clearly dominate with his motorized scooter.
No tridents.
No, maybe foam tridents.
Rick stabbed a guy with a trident.
Speaking of baseball, LSU reportedly going to hire Arizona coach Jay Johnson, who's gotten the Wildcats out to 2 College World Series in 6 tries since taking over that program. That was post when the Gamecocks played Arizona for that 3rd straight national championship game, and they ended up winning that thing. Jay Johnson looks like going to be the new LSU coach. So LSU going for another proven entity, just a more of a West Coast guy. Will be interesting to see how all that shakes out. And today's schedule of the College World Series, by the way, Vandy, NC State, 2:00, ESPN2, Texas, Mississippi State, the 7:00 game. I will see if they've announced a starter for that, this time of year because of things being all shuffled and elimination games and the whole deal. You don't get typically the announced starters like you would normally from programs there. So not sure if they're planning on Kumar Rocker, I believe, went before Jack Leiter in the rotation out there for Vandy, so would be up next. I'm not sure if he's had enough rest to do it. We'll find out today at 2:00 at the latest. 803-404-6100, the number into the program. If you haven't checked it out, please do. Oh no, the Gamecock Larry posse will be there in full force. Full all caps by Trey on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. It took me a minute to translate because he just called it the GLP, the Gamecock Larry posse. So if you ever see if you see any graffiti around Columbia, please understand that we'll get Gamecock Larry on that, get a handle on his posse there. That includes 3 people that he mentioned specifically, including one of his doctors. 404-6100. If you haven't seen that breakdown visually, the run fits from Pro Football Focus, check out @_Patrick Perrette, where he has retweeted it, where the football analytics guys love it. And I think Gamecock fans might have a better understanding of what exactly didn't go right in the last few years in Columbia.
Might have a better understanding of how we got to space.
Maybe
how
life
we're
in
supposed to fit a run.
Right, life in general. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's the early game. It's 107.5 the game.
It's a new year.
They're hungry. They're driven.
In a new attitude.
I want guys that want to be here, not just going out there to hire some guy that has a famous last name.
It's not some retreads. We're a bunch of guys that I think are ready to prove to people that we can do some special things here.
New attitude.
I do believe that things are always meant to be.
Welcome home.
My parents went to school here. This is it. There's no other job in the country I would have left for, but to be right here.
The home of the game.
Patrick, when we first started, that traffic update you just did would have taken 2.5 minutes. 5 years ago when we first started on stage.
Oh, yeah. There would have been a coffee discussion, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Apparently, tuna products are popular in Trapini.
You're still on mute, Patrick. Oh, he's doing the other traffic update. Nice job. Yeah, are they like Subway tuna products where there's no actual tuna involved?
Now, it says tuna is a popular product because Trapini and nearby towns on the coast rely on the migratory path of the tuna, which passes right through. I may be taking a vacation to Trapini, Sicily, as soon as I can figure out how to get a passport, which probably is not that hard.
As soon as you watch another video, you're going to realize that you want to go everywhere, though. Eric, awesome.
I'm gonna save up my vacation days.
There's an interesting article on the State about Oscar Delp and his family and their connections. This kid went to Carolina games back in 2012. Grew up idolizing Marcus Lattimore and Connor Shaw.
Yeah, the word is that it's South Carolina or Georgia. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, that would be a big get. I think it's a high rating, but do people really get fired up about landing a big time tight end?
Yeah.
Do they? I don't
Kidding
know.
me?
I think around
Eric
here,
Gilbert's a different story. I mean, what is Delp actually rated? Is he a top 50 player?
I just had it. I'll tell you.
I'm gonna look here.
85 and 80. Number
Now,
three.
don't get me wrong.
number two, three tight end.
Demanding.
Yeah, people love tight ends.
Do they? Well, they always are suggesting that the ball should be thrown to them, I guess.
Yeah. You guys heard about the tight end, what they call it, tight end retreat or whatever is happening this weekend?
The tight end retreat.
I did you, right?
Tight end U, yeah, that's what they're calling it.
Where is this at?
Nashville. It's organized by George Kittle and Travis Kelce. Brought in like 50 tight ends or maybe even more to basically work on like get out on the field and exchange some tips, have some meetings and talk about like helping each other out financially with contracts and things like that, and then partying because they're sponsored by Bud Light. They got the weekend tight end U sponsored by Bud Light, so they're just gonna get hammered, talk about money, and exchange a couple pieces of advice.
Yeah.
There have been a couple things like that. Somebody started, I don't remember what it is, but like a offensive line summit where a bunch of offensive linemen came in and talked about the same thing, and then the pass rushers did the same thing. So now there's
Pass rushers?
there was like a pass rusher weekend, yeah.
Like if you're a defensive tackle, but you're pretty good at rushing the passer, do you get invited? Like,
It might have only been edge rushers. I'm not sure.
I mean, like, is Ndamukong Suh allowed to go to that? Does he just
I don't
show
know.
up?
I don't know. I don't know if it was a separate one for edge rushers and defensive tackles. They did not invite Tim Tebow to the tight end university, though.
Oh, no.
So that
All right, we're back. And you're up.
only the deep questions get asked here on the early game. Jeff, who care heating in their text line? How would one secure a position in the GLP? Is there an application? Interview? Chicken wing eating contest? Gamecock Larry Posse. Sounds like Gamecock Larry. You can add to your list of 3 names that you mentioned this morning. Trey and Jeff, at least as interested parties. I don't know if they'll give us the whole breakdown of how you can become an official member of Gamecock Larry Posse this morning. 12 official visitors, we mentioned, that will be coming to South Carolina, visiting Gamecock football over the weekend. Bill, you mentioned a high number for sure, but a bit of a natural result of what's happened recently with the dead period and leading to this extremely active June for all programs across the country. The question that I brought up earlier is, don't you think that Shane Beamer needs to add a few more highly thought of recruits out there, with 7 guys right now committed in his next class and all of them being 3-star guys? Jay from the Interstate hits us up, says Beamer absolutely needs some big wins in recruiting to excite the fan base. He says, I know some coaches say recruiting rankings don't matter, but look at the top teams and their rankings. Also, I completely agree that players got to be developed. 3 stars can outplay 5-star kids, but on average, the higher ranked recruits will outplay the lower ranked recruits. Your thoughts, Bill?
No, I agree with that. I don't know what's realistic for Beamer right now when we say stuff like that. Like how I totally agree with what they're saying. But what is realistic to expect, and what should be expected at this point in time for Shane Beamer as he tries to rebuild this program that currently sits as a 2-8 program? Yeah, he needs to land some of those guys. So can they do it? You know, we'll find out. It's been great getting them on campus, but you do have to get some commitments.
Papa Joe for the GLP now texted in. He says he'll carry the medical box and bounce the taters. And Dennis, on those Will Muschamp run fits, he says they're not as complicated as you think. Trust me, if you understand the concept behind each diagram, it's really simple. He does appreciate the details, though. Hour 3 coming up. So, what you guys got going this weekend? Anything?
I've got that party out at the farm.
And that's tomorrow?
Huh?
That's tomorrow?
10 a.m.
Okay, so that just starts the weekend, doesn't it?
Then it'll probably be. It depends on the weather. It's like a 40% chance of rain. So if it doesn't rain, Ansley wants to go tubing, and so we have a single person tube out here that I'm gonna possibly let her get a shot on. We'll see how that goes.
Patrick, what about you?
Nothing really. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like.
It's like tomorrow. It's saying it may rain in the afternoon, even potentially thunderstorms. I think Sunday is the potential for rain. I'm not sure. Tim, y'all staying down there? When y'all coming back?
Today.
Oh boy.
That'll be my fun day.
Drag the 1-year-old away from the beach. Is he ready for that?
No, he's loving it, man. He was all over it yesterday. He's now running. The dude just runs. And he doesn't stop well, but he just takes off in the waddle. It's great. Sand's perfect for him. Now we got to go back to sharp edges of home.
Oh boy. I'm sure he'll handle it well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
You're going to sit him down and explain to him that you'll be back?
Right. He's now started showing his displeasure with me just by hitting me in the face when I'm holding him.
Oh, okay. All right. We're hitting that age.
I had to do it several times, like, no, not okay.
Now, was it in that form of a voice, or did we go a little bit deeper?
Probably more firm. Because this was late in the day after eating out. Just yanking the glasses off the face. Dude, not cool.
Yeah.
You guys remind me of Tuesday when we get off the live stream too. If you can remember.
Tuesday. Okay.
Wrote it down on my notepad.
Attaboy. What an organized
Do I need
producer.
to send you anything that I watched all those videos, or did you just?
Nope.
Okay.
I hear you, Trey. I'm glad you can laugh. I don't find it as ha funny.
Well, he laughs now because I guess he's not holding him and being smacked in the face with the because you are laughing when you're talking about it. I would imagine as it's happening, there's less laughing.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta try to remember. There was something I needed to tell you, or was gonna tell you, or I can't remember.
I'll just mention it, Travis. Patrick will write it down on his note card. He is an organized producer who also simplifies, knows the genius of simplification as opposed to
That's right.
730 page.
That's right.
Keep it simple, stupid.
That
When
was
Craig
not
said
much.
they're not MIT students, and that's exactly right. Like, this is not an engineering class. It's
Yeah, but see, this is classic sports talk radio. Like, people are already bringing up the other side of it. Like, it's not actually that complicated. Like Chris says, I could explain a good bit of it. Of course, we all could, right? That's not the point. When a pro football focused analyst says this is the most involved run fits I've seen from Will Muschamp, it's comparing it to others, right? Just saying that it's that much more involved.
yeah. I really like listening to Brandon Staley talk because he's probably like the most evolved or like progressive mind in defensive coaching, and like everything he says, he dumbs it down and makes it like basically defensive linemen can one gap or two gap. One gap, they just find their place and shoot right in, and two gap, they have to kind of hold up the lineman and read the play so they can go either way. And he's like, yeah, we don't two gap because we don't want these guys having to think too much all the time. Like we just want them to go. And maybe you have a linebacker that reads it out, and everything is designed to make you have to think less and just read and react. So when you have 730 pages, you have to think really hard on every single play. Like,
Trey, well done, sir. Just bringing it all together.
Oh, I think I might have. Again, it wasn't anything important I was going to ask you. The guys I was with yesterday, have you been up? They were telling me how much they've changed Cherokee and the casino that they got up there and the hotels, and it's just they got a sports book up there now. They said that
we got to get Jeffcoat on that and that whole thing we were planning on doing, the old Ryder Cup. That's what we got to do.
I think we're going to go up. Two of the guys that I was with yesterday, one turns 40 in August and one turns 40 in September. So I think that first weekend or the first week 0 of college football, August 28th, I think we're going to go up there and play golf. And I think it's Sequoia National is the name of it.
That sounds awesome, man.
And do that for their kind of celebrate their 40th birthdays.
No, I've never been up there. You guys haven't either, right?
I've been up there when I was little, but I've been once to the casino. I take that back. That was 15, 16 years ago. They said now there's like some great restaurants in it. I know I gambled in there, so I'd say it was right around when I was 21, 22, 23. But they said that there's just a bunch of really good restaurants in there now. They've really fixed it up. So,
boy, that does change how you look at things, right? When we're old dudes now.
The restaurants?
Like, hey, can you gamble? I'm in. Now it's what else do you have?
Yeah.
How is the soup?
Well, now that's what I'm kind of looking at this Trapani Sicily walking tour, and I'm thinking, oh, that looks fun. Laying out would be fun. What kind of restaurants do they have?
How's the red wine?
Yeah. All right, one more hour.
You're up.
Kind of how this year has gone, Bill. You've talked about it several times, how the year of 2021 flying by. We're almost halfway through here at the end of June. I feel like that's how this week has gone without Jen. She has missed this week. Patrick Perrette helped fill in, Herndon Chevrolet Studios, downtown Columbus. Fantastic job as always. But what my point, Bill, was that Jen has missed out on the NASCAR in the Olympics conversation this week. And last night, her Cubs, for the first time ever, a combined no-hitter, the 7th in Major League Baseball, ties for the most ever in a year already when we haven't even hit July. But she's missed out on a lot this week.
Well, she's missed out on that. The thing that she's going to be most upset is that we had a discussion about tractors and what we learned about Lamborghini tractors.
That's right.
That tractor conversation. Yeah, she's going to be pretty upset about that one. But yeah, it really is. I mean, think about it. A week from there's probably, I would assume, a lot of people. You're coming up on what is the summer? I know it's whole summer, but I mean, next weekend is July 4th weekend. Sunday is July 4th. We will take July 5th off to that Monday, but July 4th weekend is next weekend. Like, isn't that about prime vacation time for everybody right here in the middle of the summer?
For sure. We're right into it. And Trey says, don't worry, the Olympics chat isn't going anywhere this summer. We got that involved in 2021, the 2020 Tokyo Games. This morning, we've been discussing mostly Gamecock football in multiple ways. First of all, I guess it was more of an SEC football discussion with quarterbacks coming back and JT Daniels versus Matt Corral. And those are 1-2, I think, when you're talking about returning quarterbacks in the league. And then it gets really slippery, I think. I've seen at least one ranking system here in the offseason, Saturday Down South, putting Bryce Young at Alabama number 3 with very little proven track record, right? But with the weapons around him, I think it's difficult to argue. But when they put Emory Jones at 4, I think that's when it gets that as an LSU fan, I would be like, wait, a second. Miles Brennan has been pretty good. Then you get the Auburn fans saying, no, but Bo Nix, when he's good Bo Nix at home, he can be fantastic.
Are they saying that?
Maybe not. Maybe they're saying, yeah, you guys
terrible.
Have much better quarterback play than we do. I don't know. Then you got Will Rogers and Connor Bazelak. Will Rogers from Mississippi State, Connor Bazelak from Missouri. And that's pretty much it as far as returning guys. So it's half the league that has a massive question mark. I mean, even Bryce Young and Emory Jones, certainly anything but proven entities at Alabama and Florida, respectively. So that's why I say you got a lot of question marks at quarterback when it comes to the SEC. And these power rankings, by the way, you guys want to guess where Saturday Down South has Luke Doty in South Carolina out of 14?
12.
Take your time.
I'm leaning
no
14.
hasty guesses.
I'm leaning 14.
I'll put Ken Seals at 14.
Correct.
Seals is 14?
Seals from Vandy is number 14.
So I did 13.
Yeah, 13 it is. So they have immediately at 12.
Here's the crazy thing about it, and I'll confirm what I'm thinking. Luke Doty and Emory Jones. Now, Emory Jones is a year older. He redshirted his first year and then played sparingly last year. But I think in terms of recruit status, I think they were very, very similar, if I'm correct. Let me confirm this here. And the reason I'm saying that is we haven't seen enough of Emory Jones, right? But you've seen 2.5 games of Luke Doty. And if they're just basing it on the quarterback, and Luke Doty was the number 86 player overall in his class in 2020. And I think Emory Jones is going to be right around that in the 2019 class, not confirmed. But I guess my point on this is they've seen Luke Doty. And Luke Doty wasn't great, or he was average. I would say it was average. If you look at his numbers, he was – I don't know how you would describe his 2.5 games, also given the situation that he was thrown into. I don't think it's
ineffective.
fair.
Ineffective is how I would describe it.
Yeah. So the reason I say that is it because we've seen Luke Doty? Because Emory Jones.
No, it's not that. You're leaving out a huge factor in how we rate these guys going into it.
Or are you basing it on the team?
Not just the team, but the coach. Yeah. Dan Mullen.
Emory Jones was number 85. What did I just say? Wow. Shane Beamer was, or Shane Beamer. You mentioned coach. Would you say? What did I say? Luke Doty was 84.
Right around there. I think you said 86.
Yeah. So again,
or 88.
Both guys
basically the same guy.
Right.
But you're also leaving out that Emory Jones has been on the field, even though it's only been 286 snaps that I'm looking at for the last 3 years, and he's actually worked his way into the rotation with one of the best quarterbacks in college football in last year anyway. Like they took out Kyle Trask for a few series or plays at least to put in Emory Jones. We saw during Will Muschamp's tenure that he would not take out one of the most average or certainly one of the least productive SEC quarterbacks in Colin Hill and put in Luke Doty. Now, it was a true freshman, and so that's a little different. But that seasoning under Dan Mullen behind the scenes, I think, is why you see so much more hype going into Emory Jones this year. And also just the proven commodity that is Dan Mullen with quarterbacks. I mean,
And he's a good runner. He is a good runner.
Right.
We've
And
seen
throw
that.
that
And we know that Dan Mullen loves to run his quarterbacks and prefers a dual threat quarterback, as evidenced by the fact that he still, even though he's a complete statue, would run read option with Kyle Trask. I mean, there's absolutely no reason to do that other than
Well, nobody expected it.
he considers the quarterback run a fundamental part of his offense. So
you get no credit for quarterbacks who just aren't ultra athletic.
no, but there's no reason to be running read option with someone as slow as Kyle Trask, but he still did it because it's a staple of his offense.
Well, if you get the opposing defense starting to think about very complicated run fits, maybe that's a reason. And
So I mean, you could be confident that Emory Jones will have a pretty strong year on the ground.
I actually, just to clarify something on Emory Jones, I actually thought Emory Jones, well, he is listed as a sophomore. Oh, well, he didn't get a year. That's right, because everybody's got an extra year. I was going to say, Tim, you're right. I thought he
classifications are weird. This year.
I thought he had played
Weird
one.
for the next few years.
Yeah, I thought he redshirted in 2019 and then played last year. He's actually, I didn't realize he's been there. This will be his fourth year at Florida. You're right. His first year he threw 16 passes. His second year he threw 38 passes. Last year he threw 32. To Patrick's point is about running. First year he had 18 attempts for 41 yards. His second year 42 attempts for 256, and last year was 32 runs for 217 yards. So I actually didn't realize this is his fourth year. That's kind of crazy to think of, but that does change it a little bit when you're talking about a guy going into his fourth year versus a guy who's played 2.5 games at the position.
And early on, he only was put into the games to run.
Right.
Like that's why his yards per carry weren't as good early on, because he wasn't throwing passes.
And to Matt, just hit us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. Luke Doty is so athletic that if his quarterback coach is half as good as G.A. Mangus, he's going to surprise some people. But I think that's the point, comparing Luke Doty to other quarterbacks in the SEC. He's as athletic, probably. I mean, they're very similar from the recruiting rankings that Bill brought up as Emory Jones. But then you add in more pieces around them. You add in Dan Mullen as his quarterbacks coach. That's the thing with Marcus Satterfield coming in as an offensive coordinator for the first time in the SEC as a quarterbacks coach. And with Shane Beamer as a first-year head coach, we don't know what it's going to look like. We got a really good idea what it's going to look like for Florida. And that track record couldn't be much better with quarterbacks and offensive production. And what Kyle Trask did, we saw it with our own eyes. At least I feel like I saw it happening in real time at Williams-Brice, right? When Kyle Trask and Florida kind of on the cusp of getting run out of the building, when you got a couple of different guys for Carolina running for 100 yards against them. And then when the game mattered the most in late third quarter and fourth quarter, Kyle Trask and company took over, and we kind of saw it devolve from there for Will Muschamp and company. And speaking of Will Muschamp, if you have not gotten on Twitter this morning, I encourage you to do so. I don't know if I've ever said that statement in my life, but this morning specifically, because of what Patrick retweeted about, I don't know, an hour and a half ago from Pro Football Focus, an analyst there, just loving Will Muschamp's in-depth run fits.
And loving it, or is he just?
He says he put it in there.
They're all about it. Yeah.
Let me read. You want me to read the text verbatim? This is from, what is this guy's name here? I hate it when people don't have their names. They're too cool to put their full names in their actual deal. It goes about
chalkboard.
Betts. It's a full-time employee for Pro Football Focus, director of NFL Draft Scout, and you can put your name in there, but that's just being an old man. But the specific tweet about along with the diagrams, there are 8 diagrams of run fits. Says Muschamp has the most in-depth run fits I've ever seen in a playbook, which makes me love him even more. Maybe that's sarcastic, I guess, Bill. Is that how you're reading it? But I read it for face value. York brings up a good question on our live stream this morning. He hits us up on the Facebook live stream, up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube Live, and Twitter, by the way, as well, video-wise. That's sponsored by Buford Lending. But York says, do you think Boone's complexity influences his defensive players' draft status? And I think I understand what he's saying there. I think he's saying positively, right? I think Ernest Jones doesn't get drafted in the 3rd round by the Rams if Thomas Brown, specifically a position coach at Carolina for Will Muschamp, moving on to the Rams now as associate head coach, doesn't understand everything that's involved with Ernest Jones being basically the quarterback on the defense for Will Muschamp. And it's, yeah, York says positive. Yes, I think that's got to be something. J.C. Horn was the first defensive draft in the NFL this year, or under Will Muschamp's tutelage. So that's where, Bill, I do have the problem with the reputation of the Muschamp coaching staff not developing players, because I think it's clear that they did. Now, they didn't do it enough to win football games, and I think they might have developed them more individually, if it makes any kind of sense, as opposed to a cohesive unit. And that was a big part of the disconnect and the breakdown and the ultimate failure, I think, of the previous coaching staff. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what you're saying is that out of an 11-man defense, the 11 guys on the field at one time, 3 or 4 understood the concepts and schemes. 7 or 8
again,
didn't.
I'm going to take you to task again on that one. It's not just understanding; it's execute.
Well, but I mean, you gotta understand it to be able to execute it, and so
right. But you still can understand it and not be able to execute it. Is all I'm saying.
All right, so
it really doesn't matter which one was the problem. It matters you got to get the execution part of it done. And
I mean, is that it, as Muschamp punches the whiteboard and says, "Do your job." I mean, is it as simple as 4 guys did their job, and the other 7 or 8 simply did not, and the other 7 or 8 were the bad apples for the whole group? I don't know. I mean, I do think there are, having South Carolina fans having seen Will Muschamp up close and personal now. We'll move on from the Will Muschamp era when the Shane Beamer era officially starts by running out to 2001 on September 4th. But there are still things that I think you look back and you're like, what exactly makes this guy such a bad head coach? And it isn't the complexity of the schemes he wanted to run defensively. And did offenses evolve and change over time to make him not the defensive coordinator he once was? Or was he on such good defensive? Did he have such good defensive personnel at LSU and a few of his other stops previously, Texas, that Will Muschamp was a byproduct of the talent that was on the team?
Muschamp did some good things, the cocky codger hits us up with. Then he says, but it's a lopsided scorecard to the negative, big time. No doubt about it. Nobody's disagreeing with the ultimate final results there. I mean, what is it, 6-16 now combined the last couple of years for Carolina football? That record speaks for itself. But how we kind of reverse engineer our opinions of it, or just oversimplify things and say that coaching staff never developed anybody. Well, when you see guys playing and thriving in the NFL, it's clearly not the case. When you saw teams and defenses specifically doing the opposite in the SEC, when we saw Matt Corral coming on after the Ole Miss Carolina game last year and said, yeah, we knew what they were going to do before they did it. It was basically, he said it was easy. Well, then that's the opposite of what a 730-page defensive playbook should be able to give. And that's the fascinating part of this discussion. And to me, seeing it visually, Patrick, was jarring. And I get it that several of you have hit us up and said, actually, when you break it down, Dennis specifically texted us and says, I've seen it, the whole thing. Actually, when you break it down, it's not as complicated as it looks. But when you get an analyst who compares these things to other things, that's what I take away from it, is that it is more involved. And if you get players to buy in and you got everybody on the same page, it can be an explanation for why South Carolina beat Auburn last year, why South Carolina beat Georgia the year before. But those are isolated weeks, right? And for whatever reason, the overwhelming, just like the cocky said, the overwhelming kind of balance of the whole tenure was on the other side. And those weeks were rarities. And what we saw more often, week in and week out, was maybe what you were talking about, Bill, and I would switch those numbers. I would say maybe you had 7, 8, 9, 10 guys who were executing and knew exactly what to do on defense. But if you had a few guys who didn't, that's how it breaks down in football. You got to have everybody on the same page. And as you were talking about the defensive playbook specifically, and we referenced Will Muschamp after the big win against Auburn last year, and the big post-game celebration speech was, we won this game with our preparation on Tuesday and the whole thing. And I mentioned at the time that, man, that didn't sit well with me. That's not what I want to hear from a leader of men. There's a recent article on The Athletic talking to Nick Saban, Mike Krzyzewski, I think, a couple of other big-time coaches. One in hockey is Joe Madden in baseball, excuse me. But they were talking about culture. And that's something that Shane Beamer has talked about a lot. And it's something that I feel like we never really heard a lot from Will Muschamp. And to me, I think that's the relatively easy explanation for why it didn't work as a head coach, Bill, is because when you have such intricate run fit and the whole thing, clearly that's your thing. That's Will Muschamp's thing. And you got to be who you are, right? And I'm sure it's Nick Saban's thing to a certain degree and Bill Belichick's thing to a certain degree. But then developing the overall culture in a way where everybody gets what they're supposed to do and is working in the same way. That never became Will Muschamp's thing. And to me, that's ultimately how I'll define his tenure as a head coach, not just in South Carolina, but wasn't able to take that next step to get everybody moving in the right direction, doing what they needed to do. That, and then on the offensive side of the ball, just never had consistent quarterback play. It's an easy explanation for why Carolina didn't win a bunch of games.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I kind of look at, just doing the numbers, the 4-8 team, that defense is likely going to have minimum. TJ Brunson was drafted, right? He was drafted by the Giants, right? Late, 6th or 7th round.
I believe that's correct. He either did that or went on to make the team as an undrafted guy.
I think he was drafted. I think that
was drafted late.
That team that went 4-8 will end up with 6 starters, 7 starters. I left one off. That one of them is still in school, but I've got 7 starters on the defense that will have probably end up being drafted. 6 that we know of, 1 that will be drafted, JJ Ngbare, who's still in school. I don't know, Tabby. 7 guys on your starting.
But wait, you can go farther than that. But Brunson was drafted 238, so but he's the exception. Most of these guys, or at least half of them, taken pretty highly, right? Kinlaw, first round draft pick. J.C. Horn, first defensive player, taken. I mean, those 2 guys are leading the way in this defense you're talking about. What other names you had there in front of you? DJ Wanham, taken relative.
McQuamu,
3rd round pick. So McQuamu was toward the end as a 6th rounder. Who else is on there?
So I've got the 6 that have been drafted is Horn, McQuamu. Then you mentioned Kinlaw as a 1st rounder, Ernest Jones, TJ Brunson, and DJ Wanham. And then JJ Ngbare right now is Patrick is a guy who's getting 1st round publicity. Yeah. We'll see if he gets it. We'll see if that's what happens. You know, he's got to go out and have a good senior season, but he's getting 1st round publicity. So there's 7 guys. I don't know how you, as you said, develop guys. Horn was highly thought of coming out. Ngbare, McQuamu, and Brunson were Kinlaw. I guess Horn and Kinlaw were guys that were considered as recruits, elite players. McQuamu, Jones, Brunson, and Ngbare were all guys who were mid-tier 3 stars, high-level 3 stars. And then Wanham was the one guy that nobody really had much of an idea about who ended up developing. So just if you just do the numbers on that, 7 guys off of that 4-8 team, and I don't know what that means for coaching or how you again go back and analyze what Will Muschamp was able to bring into the program, develop, and then produce on the field.
Interesting. Further take from Dennis, who mentioned that he's NFL playbooks and appreciates the details that Muschamp had. It says, keep in mind those run fits are in a perfect world where the offensive players go where it's designed to, and all the defensive players are where they're supposed to be. That doesn't happen most of the time. That's why you got to have linebackers and safeties that are capable of making adjustments mid-play and erasing mistakes the front may make. It's why the in-depth details are unnecessary, in my opinion. Should have focused that energy on game management. And that last part is the most interesting part to me. In-depth details, unnecessary. And we heard that a lot about Kurt Roper on the offensive side of the ball, right? That Carolina offensive players would, I know, Billy, you were joking about the simplified offensive playbook, but I think we heard the opposite from a lot of those players when the change was made, is that, hey, we're actually practicing the plays that we're going to run the game.
Well, it was Rico Dowdle. It was at the bowl game. Brian McClendon's first game as offensive coordinator, and I think Heath and I were standing there post game listening to Rico Dowdle with reporters, and they just asked what the big difference was, and he said, we ran the plays in the game that we've been practicing leading up to the game. And you went, there's a concept that's new, but all right.
Classic. Trey asks, do we have a baseline for what a reasonable playbook is for a college defensive playbook compared to the 730-page playbook that we found from the Florida days this morning for Will Muschamp? We'll try to get you a baseline there, a reasonable baseline. It's a good question Trey brings up. Love talking some college football with you this morning. 803-404-6100 is the number if you'd like to call or text, get in on the show. It's the early game. It's 107.5 again.
It's crazy the ants came out that quickly.
Still has that spray.
Is it all?
What do you think, Patrick? What's the reasonable defensive playbook compared to 730 pages?
I don't know, and I don't know if it's just not all of them are just plays.
Right.
Didn't you say the 730 pages? Also, there was like the beginning of it was like not opinions, but philosophy and
yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't technically a 730 page. For all we know, that there's 100 pages of just philosophy and quotes and stick your face in the fan material.
Just different fan.
Just one picture of a face, or like as you're scrolling through, like some of it. What
fan? Face and fan.
Yeah, what is it like 15? What is it where you scroll, you flip through real fast, and like it's just a face going into a fan and
the flip book. Wow.
All right.
Anthony, there's no way I could sit still for one show. It's why I don't go. It's honestly why I can't go to movies. It's why I don't watch a lot of movies. We've had that discussion before. I can't sit for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and
here we go.
Watch a movie.
We'll look at the 2014 Boston College defensive playbook.
Thank you. I would imagine also pretty involved.
Oh, this looks like just one particular install, it says. Yeah, they're not full on playbooks. All right. So mid-mid. Tulane looks like their full playbook is published. And the Packers playbook from 2003 looks to be their full. It doesn't have any of their philosophies in it, but it's only 105 pages.
I just looked up how many pages is an NFL playbook. Playbooks are usually well over 100 pages.
Yeah.
I got a
2009 Tulane defense is 313 pages.
How many?
313.
I got a 254 page booklet to the Ultimate Guide to Football Defense, which is a 425 guide. $290-page one for a 425 read and react playbook. Well, Bill, what was the number? I was going to bring it up. I'll do it on air. I think it was 11 out of 11, that 2010 defense that got drafted or went on to the NFL.
Well, they weren't all starters because I think like Tony Schroeder, it was the 2011 defense.
Oh, the linebackers, you're right. So it was like 9 out of 11 then, right?
Yeah, the starters themselves, I want to say that team, it was the backups. I want to say it was like 13 guys or 14 guys total that played on that defense were drafted, but I think it was like only 9 starters.
Right. You're right. It was Strauder, and who was the other one? You remember the other JUCO linebacker?
Josh Dickerson.
Dickerson.
It's crazy. That was 10 years ago. Well, 2011, I take that back, Tim. According to statistics, I don't know if he was a starter. 2011 had Rodney Paulk and Shaq Wilson as linebackers with Quinn Smith and Reggie Bowens.
You're up.
Trying to do that weird thing that you don't often get these days. Give you some perspective. To put it in perspective, Bill, you mentioned looking back to the 2019 defense. That's the 2020. Which one are we going back to? So 2 seasons ago. This is 2021 coming up, right? So this is 2 seasons ago, right? One game with it was a 4-8 season, the one big win against Georgia that year. And out of the 11 starters on defense for Will Muschamp, 6 of them already drafted in the NFL, and 1 more definitely will get drafted. It might be the 3rd first-round pick in that group, with J.J. Enagbare is really highly thought of heading into this season as a pass rusher and one of the best in the country last year. So Matt says, hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, defense was definitely not the problem on that 4-8 team. I said that at the time. Nobody wanted to listen to me. Bentley getting hurt derailed that entire season. And I think that's an example. We all remember Jake Bentley going down at the end of the first game, and then the struggles for Ryan Helinski and the offense moving forward. But that goes back to Dennis's point about the run fits, and the diagram that has popped up on social media today from Pro Football Focus from Will Muschamp's old Florida playbook that was 730 pages long, and we did look that up in the break as well and didn't find anything more than I think a bit more than 300 pages, but most playbooks were like 100 pages, I think, what we looked up. But Dennis mentioned how this is just the ideal theoretical plays, right? Where everybody on offense goes where they're supposed to go, on defense, everybody goes where they're supposed to go. And rarely does that happen in a play. And you got to be able to make adjustments. And you got to have guys who are able to erase mistakes. And to me, it's the same thing with your starting quarterback going down. You got to be able to make the adjustment. I mean, this is football where, I mean, Will Muschamp knew it better than anybody, right? He was always next man up in the whole thing. You can't have one injury like that with such a drastic impact, and that's clearly what happened for Carolina's offense that year. But I don't know, we'll never know, Bill, how much blame or how much the reasoning of that injury, how much, I guess, credit that deserves, right? Because we saw Jake Bentley play well at times, but we never saw sustained success. Don't know if that season we would have seen it. We do know from transferring to Utah and now transferring to South Alabama that it certainly hasn't been sustained success from there on out.
Yeah, I mean, I think revisionist history here with Jake Bentley getting injured, but how many other games do you see South Carolina winning that season with Jake Bentley? And do you think he beats Georgia on the road? Maybe they beat Missouri. They are right. They played good defense that day, and Ryan Helinski obviously gave up 2 touchdowns by himself with a pick 6 in the third quarter, and then the weird catch fumble play in the end zone, and South Carolina loses by 20. So Helinski alone giving up 14 points just by himself. Does South Carolina beat Florida with Bentley? I don't know. That's just something we'll never know, and you move on from that. It is interesting. I think long term, what you kind of look at, Tim, if you want to change the subject here for about 20 minutes, is all right. We're talking about that 2019 defense. Again, J.C. Horn was highly thought of in recruiting. Javon Kinlaw was an in-state kid who ended up sticking with his pledge to South Carolina. The rest of the guys weren't highly thought of, yet they still came here. They've ended up being, and J.J. Gbare, again, will be part of this defensive line with guys who were highly thought of. Zach Pickens, Jordan Burch, Rick Sandage was a high-level 4-star player. How much talent does this team have to do what they want to do this year, which is, you hope, get to a bowl game, 6-7 wins.
But before you keep going on that train of thought, doesn't that's the argument then that the staff developed players, right? As opposed to the criticism now from the Will Muschamp era, and we just got another one in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from Darren, just talking about Muschamp's main issue was development, and I think that's oversimplified, isn't it? I mean, this is the argument that he did develop those guys.
I think you said it earlier. Individually, there does appear to be guys who is pointing to 6 or 7 guys defensively. Again, J.C. Horn, highly thought of. Javon Kinlaw, highly thought of. At least coming to the program, you still, as I've said with Shane Beamer and staff, you still have to develop. You got to sign them, then you got to develop them. But with all that being said, is 7 guys over the course of 4 or 5 years a sign that he really developed them? I don't know what's the average for a mid-tier program to have of guys drafted over 7 years.
But that's why I went back and asked you how many guys got drafted off the starting defense in 2010. Did that in the live video stream during the break, and you came up with, I think, 9 out of the 11, but like 13 guys from that defense that year ended up getting drafted. And you're talking about guys coming off the bench. A couple of linebackers from junior college that year did not. And Trey, it can't be this simple though. The Will Muschamp staff develop players for the NFL, not for college level. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. You say that, but then you pointed to the Thomas Brown, Ernest Jones connection, And Brown knowing what Ernest Jones would be as a pro, because look, I'm not saying Ernest Jones was a bad football player this year. He was a good football player. But we were all very surprised when he declared for the draft in December, right?
Yep, no doubt.
We were all really
more surprised
shocked.
about the third round.
I was gonna say we were all really shocked when I think it was Kuiper came out. Patrick's boy Mel Kiper Jr. came out and put him in the second, third round, whatever he initially had him, and then he ends up being drafted in the third round. We were all shocked by that. And I mean, Patrick, I don't know. I defer to you. You're more the draft guru. Ernest Jones, physically and statistically, was he a second or third? Well, obviously he went third round. Was he a third round linebacker?
I mean, the thing is, this is the smallest draft class in not the history of the draft, but it will be remarkably smaller. Like next year, there will be more than probably around twice as many players as were entered into this draft. So everyone got bumped up a little bit. Like Mukuamu being a sixth rounder might not have been drafted if he went next year. So in hindsight, it was probably a good idea for some of these guys. But I mean, to that point, like I don't know if it's not developing guys for the college level. Like maybe he's just teaching them. Maybe individually they're good players, but it's just too much for them to deal with, or it's too complicated. And if one cog in the machine screws up on any given play, like it's all over. And maybe it's just that simple. Like it was too much, or there wasn't enough depth, and it's fine to have 6 good players, but if the other 5 stink, then what are you supposed to do? Like one guy can screw up everything in football. Like that's why it is the ultimate team sport. And maybe that's the case, especially on defense. Like if one guy doesn't do his job, if a wide receiver runs the wrong route, you don't have to throw him the ball. But if the defensive back gets lost, then I mean you're giving up a touchdown. Or one guy doesn't fill the right gap in run defense, then there's an open hole and the running back's gone for 10 plus yards.
Steven, I think again a massive oversimplification on the YouTube live stream. I feel J.C. Horn was drafted on pure potential, not his productivity at Carolina. He really only had one big game. Yeah, he only had one big game with interceptions, but he shut down a bunch of dudes game in and game out. That's productivity, even though it doesn't show up in a box score. That is cornerback productivity, and no corner gets drafted on pure potential. I mean, you got to have the measurables.
No one gets drafted in the top 10 or the first round.
My apologies. Yeah. No one has ever been drafted as the first defensive player in the NFL draft on pure potential. It's just not giving them enough credit. But it is, Bill, like you're saying, it's a complicated discussion, I feel like, or maybe just it's really hard to wrap the brain around that good players don't play on good defenses. But again, I think that visual today that's popped up on the internet about the run fits and how intricate they are, and a Pro Football Focus analyst saying they're the most involved run fits he's ever seen.
And my synopsis was, I can't translate any of this, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that it's too complex or it's excessive. Preston Thorne, who did play defensive tackle at this university, agreed. He sent me he responded with a bullseye emoji. So there are actual football players that look at that and say, what in the world is that?
Well, not just what in the world is that. They can understand it, but then why? Yeah. That was Dennis's point. Like, it's so in-depth. It's theoretical. And that was my point, breaking Will Muschamp down to a college professor, in that you have brilliant guys that understand the material, the ins and outs. But if you can't relay it, and then in football, if you can't then get your players to execute it, that's a massive problem.
Well, and I think, again, Patrick has made the point multiple times, and I agree with him now as you look back on everything. Muschamp clearly spent a lot of time, I'm not joking, clearly spent a lot of time developing these philosophies and concepts and run fits, right? I mean, this isn't something that he sat down in a day and came up with. He thoroughly believes in his system. And when you go into a game and you thoroughly believe in the system the way he is, and then being so unwilling to make a change in the middle of the game, the other team figures it out, you got to adjust. And you got Muschamp over there going, look, I got a 300 and some odd page playbook. It's been studied ad nauseum. If you'll just follow the run fits as I have diagrammed right here, we'll win the football game.
Bill, you're selling that way short, 730.
Sorry. Well, again, some of it, as we pointed out on the live stream, might have been just the flip book with the guy sticking his face in the fan. There was probably some concepts and quotes in there.
Making that up.
There was maybe one section that just in 32 fonts says all. Next page says gas. Next page says no. Next page says. I mean, we don't know what's in it. Again, it's 730 pages of the Will Muschamp defensive philosophy. There might be some drawings in there, just simple drawings. Guy getting tackled.
Well, I love the hypothetical on something real that you could go and look at.
halfway through, you hit the flip page, the flip book page chapter, and you just flip through real quick. It's a base going into the fan. Then the next chapter is just, again, 32 word font, says all, just breaks it down. What'd you say that one, Patrick, was? You said maybe I misunderstood. You gave a breakdown earlier, and I thought like it was one of those like each letter stood for a certain word. I thought you said maybe Gator defense or something. Maybe I'm wrong. Or like,
oh, there were just different sections. Like there were the bench guy run fits, the base Mike 3 Buzz run fits, the bench 8 Cora Roy Lee run fits, and the overmatch 4 swap run fits. And there was a different play for each of those.
There's probably a run fit about fitting in on the nub side. I mean, probably used the playbook.
Craig says, he goes with the quote of Will Muschamp. He's taking on 750 pounds of double teams. Well, how about you don't make your D tackle do that? Change the subject. He says right now he's just getting angry. Craig is about this. Okay, fair enough. A couple more comments, though, before we do that. Anonymous Sector says, maybe it's both. Muschamp and the team did develop individual skill sets, but just weren't good at coaching the team as a whole and making adjustments. And Ben from Lexington wanted to make sure that we knew the one player that he's hoping to start to break out is Zach Pickens. He says he understands playing defensive line in the SEC as an underclassman. It's not the same transition as playing another position, but countless examples, Ben says, of Pickens being blown off the ball in games last year, hoping some of our 5-star recruits can show the talent that we know they have this year. 803-404-6100. If you'd like to get in a final word this morning, it's quite the show. See if we can finish strong when we come back. It's the early game on 107.5.
Clear.
Oh, great.
Team effort, interesting topic today as it pertains to what we've been speaking about. Something I know in real life actually requires a team effort as well is buying a house or refinancing, getting your mortgage. Let Benji Getsy be the leader of that team or join your team. His team at Buford Lending has been doing it for more than 20 years. They have experience in all kinds of different areas of lending, whether it's a VA loan, a conventional loan, construction, renovation, whether you're looking to refinance right now, maybe buy a new house if you're looking to expand with a growing family like I am, you're looking to buy a second home, whatever it is, Buford Lending has done that. Benji Getsy and his team fully confident that they can get you the best deal. And from firsthand experience working with Benji, I can tell you the numbers he's shown me, absolutely fantastic. You know, the market right now is as hot as maybe we've ever seen it. Give him a call at 843-524-2404. That's Benji Getsy and his team at Buford Lending. 843-524-2404.
So what I've learned today, apparently, if you want to get a hotel room in Trapani, Sicily, not that expensive to make people.
Not that expensive.
Well, what does the room look like is what I would say. Is there heating and air?
Well, that's a good question on that. I'm looking at a hotel here that it's got 4.2 out of 5 stars. Bell breakfast. Looks like it's about $114 a night. Fully refundable before Wednesday, March 30th of next year.
114 US dollars.
Oh, it's on Orbitz. I would assume Orbitz is giving me the U.S. price. Because free Wi-Fi, a buffet breakfast for a daily fee. I just don't know if this place that I particularly looked at is a touristy destination. By the way, it does say air conditioning, so that's good.
Big score. Trying to figure out exactly where this Cedar Creek mansion is.
What?
We're
That recruit his grandfather has in the area. It's like it's down towards Aiken. Actually, maybe not. No, just outside of Fort Jackson.
Andrew.
12 official visitors this weekend to Gamecock football. Bill, do you plan on any commitments coming out of the weekend with so many guys coming into Columbia and hanging out with Shane Beamer and the new Gamecock football coach staff?
When you say that, do you mean that we actually find out about the commitment this weekend, or we just get a welcome home only to have to wait a few days?
Will any kids be setting up some edits or videos?
Right. So it doesn't have to be the full thing, right, where you get the welcome home tweet and then you figure out exactly who it is with the player's announcement and the video attached to the whole thing. Do you think we will get more tweets from Shane Beamer this weekend of welcome home, basically signaling that there has been a commitment to he and his coaching staff?
I think 1.5 is the over-under on that. I think you definitely get one. Maybe you get two. The two guys I'm kind of looking at, Anthony Rose, the former commitment, seems to have really liked his visit a few weeks ago, is coming right back to campus, has a good relationship with Torian Gray. I think the question is, does Anthony Rose want to, again, does he just commit? Or, for the second one, do you need to do a big press conference or a hat deal or, some kind of live animals? And then the other guy that I'm keeping an eye on that I think you would put on, I guess, commitment watch is a guy, Mason Thomas, linebacker / edge rusher, 6'3", 215 pounds, out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, who has recently been in contact with Clayton White and scheduled an official visit very quickly. I think that's another guy. Those are the two that anybody else I think would be classified to me as a surprise. There are some other big names that are coming in, but those are the two guys that I think you're keeping an eye on this weekend that could potentially be the cause for a Spurs up.
Welcome home, you mean?
Welcome home. How dare you, Bill? Good job.
What?
Welcome home, you mean?
Not Spurs up.
No Spurs up anymore.
We've
all this Will Muschamp discussion.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, when there's a 730-page playbook that gets released, or we get to see some of it today, which has been fascinating. Patrick, excellent job finding that this morning. Pro Football Focus folks breaking that down. Just seeing it visually and then talking about it, I think maybe providing some closure for Gamecock fans on that era and being able to move on.
Pro Football Focus also put out their 10 hardest schedules in the country yesterday and had South Carolina at number 5.
Seems fair.
Interesting. And for Shane Beamer and company, as far as the non-conference goes, it's about as favorable as you could ask for with Eastern Illinois, Troy, and East Carolina at it with Clemson. Thanks for listening to the early.
Clear.
All right. That was something, huh?
That was something. Oh, Patrick, we need to. Are we gonna
Yeah,
cut
we're
the
gonna-
camera time?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll get you.
All right. Live streamers, looks like these guys are going to get to work. We will talk to you on Monday.
No microwave bacon. We just need to go buy bacon right now. There's nothing even in the microwave.
Anthony, Hope, nice work. Trey, Craig, appreciate all the contributions. York, good job. See you guys.
Everybody have a good